Also Barnes & Noble.
I like him.
Hello and welcome, dear viewer and friends, my friends. Welcome to the first session of Abilon, which is just our homebrew campaign game. Homebrew campaign game. How's the light look on you guys? Light looks harsh. No, you look good. Yeah, light looks great on
You look great.
Bryce.
You look great. Every time. Hey, just a couple of handsome guys hanging out. It's what we do.
Two handsome guys having a good time.
It's not a big deal.
Also,
What you doing?
Smudging it so that we can do that soft focus on you. For all the romance in this story.
believe it or not, I think that helps.
Smear a little Vaseline on the screen.
I demand it. It's in my contract.
Look like a classic old.
There's not Vaseline on that camera in 10 seconds.
I am out.
I'll be in my trailer.
Where are the brown M&Ms I ordered?
I'm still waiting for the day that Jake replaces us with professional, or us with professional actors. Sorry, you are a professional actor, so.
I was gonna say, I have slowly.
Yeah. Oh no! Ah! Coming for us.
Slow process.
I'm slowly gonna replace you all. No, I'll just kill you forever. I'll keep you to kill you forever.
Wait, like me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Let's see what's going on these other cameras. Who is calling me? Well, they know I'm in the middle of a game. They do not know that. Alright.
get targeted by a spell that is like lightning, fire, cold, whatever else, you absorb it, you take half damage, and the next round you deal 1d6, and you do that as a reaction.
What are you? I forget.
All right, so just to kind of get everyone, the viewers in, this is a I don't know how to even explain a campaign to people who aren't playing it. I only know how to explain the game in terms of. So I figure let's just dive in and we'll just kind of learn the world together as opposed to me just like sitting here and talking about gods and this and that and politics. But there are a few keynotes about this campaign. The biggest one is that there are no alignments. So creatures that you encounter, people you encounter in the world just are the way they are. And you guys don't have to pretend like you've never heard me say these things either. I'm just saying this for the I appreciate
It's the first time I've ever heard this.
This is all new
We are
information.
meeting now for the first time.
Meanwhile, I'm on my phone.
Light is now in your frame.
What?
Player's handbook.
Player's handbook.
Sorry, I'm just afraid of hitting chords and stuff.
I'm just doing this
Yeah.
like Bill O'Reilly. Fuck it, do it like you.
Ask when he passes.
What do you need there? I can look it up.
Do we?
I think everything.
My sorcery
Probably
points.
should pause while I'm
How
doing
many
this.
sorcery
This
points
is
I have
more
for
just
someone?
if you have the right notes and stuff.
My background stuff, I just have to remember that.
It's there.
This is the most compelling thing on the internet right now.
That's right.
Me adjusting
This
cameras.
is it.
This is like what were
Welcome
they doing
to
before the
21st
stream?
century.
They must be thinking,
Oh.
man, now that light is like right in your frame. I'm gonna have to get you guys at an angle, I think.
None.
I'm just gonna
Vaseline would fix it. Or...
Okay, cool. So now I just have 5.
These cameras are super wild. Wide angle. Wild angle.
Wild.
Wild camera has appeared.
Okay. And then this door needs to be
It is
closed.
confused.
People.
And it hurt itself in its
Okay,
confusion.
I can play D&D now. Yay. Yay. So orcs, dwarves, humans, halflings all live together in peaceful accord. There is the human heartlands are what they call this area. So basically the land, the world we're on is called Abilon. Abilon is the setting. Abilon is it's a continent, just a big continent. We're just doing an old school big continent. As far as they're concerned, that's the entire planet. The continent it was once, in the folklore, this island that was like the back of a dragon, and the firstborn children were the orcs, and then they had their first servants, and their first children were the elves, and then the dwarves and the humans. They kind of made the whole place. So cool. You guys we've already rolled up our characters, FYI, and we're going for like a really like heavy narrative. So we've already worked in a lot of background. So what I want to do now is I want to go around the table and we're gonna do a little like mini solo roleplay sesh like we did, like Nathan did when we did the Barbovia. What was it? Barbovia. Barmovia. Barovia. I do.
That was Sean Connery, the
It was
vampire.
Sean Connery as the count. I can count up to 2.
Very situation.
Yeah, well, you want the moon? I'll give you the moon. Mary, you old maid.
Cleanest
That's the
campaign
only Jimmy
introduction
Stewart I know
ever.
is those 4 lines from It's a Wonderful Life.
All he's ever done.
Okay. So what we'll do is we're gonna go around the room. We're gonna talk about your characters a little bit, and then we're gonna you'll be in the middle of a scene, and each of you are gonna be talking to somebody that is either your mentor or your close compatriot. The day is not a special day of note on the calendar, but it is a special day that lots of people have been planning their last few weeks around. The Praetor, I believe is how it's pronounced, Praetor, of the Heartlands, or the forgotten, or the formal kingdom of Arbus. Arbus is the name of the kingdom. Have all joined to this barony. What was your character's last name, Nathan?
Weston.
Weston. Your first name was?
Kendall. Do I have a brother?
So, yeah, you do.
Okay.
What has happened to your brother, our friend Andy, who's not here right now, because of poor sickness. Hi, Andy. If and when Andy gets to play, so we're gonna keep the brother angle. We're gonna keep it exactly the same. But he was struck with illness a few years ago, and as a result, went to the capital city of Bastion, and fell in with a magus there. Cool. So we are actually kind of tweaking. We'll just go ahead and start. We're gonna start with your backstory. We're actually tweaking your backstory a little bit. I think that we talked about how you had intentions of becoming a magus. Yeah. Like that was. Sure. Your whole conflict is pretty much based around that's what you want to do, and your dad is just not cool with it. Absolutely not cool with it. And your last name is Weston, you said?
Sure.
Cool. So the barony would be
Pretty sure.
They normally title them, the family gets the title, maybe like the Free Woods or like the Heartland Plains of, but it's like a family name.
Cool.
And basically, as your father is a baron of, we'll just call them the Western Highlands, which is on the southernmost tip of the continent. He's in charge of recruiting the army, the protectorate of the people is what the old houses do. And you are part of a larger house. There are loading. I didn't put anything. Okay. I'm gonna say that there are, how many humans are there in Lord of the Rings? There's 9, right? There are 9 lords. There are 9 human lords.
Okay.
Yeah. The 9 lords that took the rings that turned them into the
they're
rings.
there. That's,
yeah.
I was like, there are a lot of
Yeah.
humans.
Yeah. So there are 9 houses, and they are not dictated by lineage, but rather by valor and writ. So basically, it's almost impossible to get a new house into these or new baron, like appoint a new baron, unless the Lord wants to, and it's very rare that it happens. So almost always, it's just pure passage through lineage. And the one thing that royals get is the exception to the universal tax, the firstborn of every family. Royals don't have to send any of their family to do works, as royals are supposedly going to raise their children to do good works all the time. That's right. It's the churches don't have to pay taxes.
Absolutely.
And your father, his name is Redmond. Baron Redmond Weston. I love that. We're all Game of Thrones people, right?
Yeah. No.
Well, he's, I see Sir Davos in my head. He is a stately, well-weathered man who, like, I believe that your father, at one point, actually was probably involved in some sort of conflict, probably a very minor one. There aren't a lot of, like, as long as you stay on the path, and, you know, if you're going from town to town, you stay on the path, you're not going to encounter wild creatures. At least that's how it goes. You never left the town, so other than the 2 times you went to Bastion, you would have never, you wouldn't be compelled to. So it's an untested theory that the roads are safe, because most of the time people stay. The only time you really see people taking to the road is during the quarterly solstices, in which the different types of can you have if you have to have multiple suns to have more solstices, right? Isn't a solstice like about when it's like goes around, it's like halfway around. So let's say that we have 2 suns, and let's say that defines a solstice.
Alright.
In the set, I don't care if that's real. Don't at me, scientists.
Do not at me.
And basically the humans are in the most protected part of the world, and they make all the agriculture. They raise all the livestock, and it all gets all shipped off to the dwarven kingdoms and to the orc homesteads out in the shards, the shard lands, or the shards. Out in the shards, I throw you out in the shards, they'd say, and then somebody would punch them.
Yeah.
Why are you talking like that? So your brother, who I can't do.
Oh, it's Wendell.
Wendell.
Wendell and Kendall.
Kendall. All right, Kendall and Wendell.
I hate you guys.
It's unfortunate we're both not here.
Yeah.
Your full name is Kendellen,
Wow. I forgot
Devin
the.
and Devin.
and your father hates it when you guys call yourselves Kendall and Wendell.
That makes sense.
You guys are, I would imagine, pretty good friends, or were when you were children, and since you've had to take on more responsibility over the town of, let's get it, I love randomly naming towns. I've had months to prepare for this, and I don't know the name of the starting town.
Love it. We don't either. Let's all find out together.
Well, I don't know. You're from here. What's the name of the town?
I was just gonna call it Weston.
It would need to be like Westonville, so it could be like the hamlet of Weston. That would be fine because it's not a very big town. It's big enough that it's the biggest town for 200 miles. It is sizably bigger than it. It has a manor and it has a fortification. It has multiple temples. It has pretty much one of all the standard services you would expect in a fantasy style campaign, except for all the magical stuff. So blacksmith, there's a couple, maybe there's 2 blacksmiths in this town, and there are lots of little like podunk, even more podunk places out. So you're about as hot shit as it comes.
Absolutely.
In and out of game, Nathan. About as hot shit as it
Well,
comes.
I don't know. Price shaved.
So yeah, we'll just call it the Hamlet.
Everybody tuned in today to watch me eat.
So good.
That's what I feel like every time we're on. We're just snacking hard every session.
It's just the time of day.
Mm-hmm.
What's up?
Yeah, I haven't eaten today either. Well, no, I ate breakfast.
So Wendell's sickly?
So Wendell was sickly.
Did he fall through the ice, perhaps, as a child?
Ah! He fell through the ice. He almost died. No, he was some sort of malady that all the healers in this part of the country couldn't understand. So we're going to tie that, as opposed to you, who's going to get superpowers. We're going to tie his thing into something else.
Cool.
So he doesn't know that yet because I'm talking about it. But that's what's happening. So, but the difference is that he's actually training. He's on the path to obtaining his apprenticeship to becoming a magus, and he has stayed in the city. And in your eyes, that makes him a bit of a success. You're probably a bit jealous of him. And in your dad's eyes, he hates it. He just thinks, what a waste. What a waste. Cool. Cool. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I was putting on music because it was too crunchy here. It's not crunchy, it's just creepy, silent. And if I turn it down low enough, it doesn't show up on the feed.
I'm almost done. So.
No, it's not your food.
It's his job.
It's you.
You are too crunchy.
I'm pretty crunchy.
His job. He got that TMJ just.
Yeah, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not even good.
Heard that. Anyway.
Okay, that's a little intense.
Yes. The monstrous horde is attacking.
Spill
Weston
ball!
Hill.
I'm gonna put it in the living room and hopefully it won't go very, very well on the stream. It's so epic.
I know, she's amazing.
Yep. It's quiet. Too quiet.
This music's too epic. My music's too epic! Let's just go to creepy. Creepy always works. Okay, so you're at your manor, which overlooks the town. Your homeland is this hilly plains that are edged out on all sides of the border by forest and mountain, and on the southernmost side, it ends like you're right there within a couple, 50 to 100 miles of the sea. So it's not right by the sea, but it's close enough that if you guys wanted to, you could go to the beach. Which is what we're going to be doing this whole first session. Going to the beach.
Stepping on the beach.
People on the beach. People on the beach. Okay. So you guys, you're looking out of the kingdom, and your father is basically preparing you for the day that's ahead of you. Today is the day that the praetor is coming to town. He explains. He says, "I'm gonna say praetor because I hate saying preacher.
That's fair.
I like praetor. It's just if it's wrong.
Praetor sounds weird.
I know, but it looks good on paper. So the praetor is coming, and his name is Grand Magus Victor Xanatos, because reasons, because I like that name. This guy is about as famous as you can be in like a feudal style like world. He is more or less the chosen representative of the people, and he's quite literally on a goodwill tour, going from town to town, going to these festivals. He puts on a bit of a show. There are different, like, they put up shops. It's basically like a carnival wherever he goes. And as he goes around, people commit to him. Basically, they're like, they grant them their grace, and when they do that, he magically imprints a vote. So he literally like goes around and like shakes people's hands, gets their signature that way, takes it back to headquarters, and then somebody like puts it through a magic 8-ball. And this is what they say. Whether you've never seen this up front, and no one oversees them, so who knows if this guy
like
was
a cockamamie system of voting.
But you know, in the hundreds of years you guys have been doing this, no one's ever complained, and I literally mean not one time.
All right.
Until tonight.
Until tonight, when I write a strongly worded letter.
Our editorials will be scathing.
So if your dad is the Baron of what you said, Weston, the Hamlet of Weston. Weston is if he's the sheriff basically, because he's got all the knights and reliquaries. That's not the right word. I like it though.
It's great.
It sounds really good.
He has all that. The mayor would be the luminary. So each town's gonna have a luminary as well. So this person, as you're going into your father's private chambers, which has a big balcony that overlooks. He's called for you, and you're meeting him up in the chambers. The luminary lady. Her name is Lady. Lady Shay. Shay. Lady Shay, she's an elderly lady. She's I don't know, Maggie Smith. She's just like this very like studious and like put together person.
So she's human?
Yeah, she's human.
Is Victor human?
Get this thing out of the way. Oh my god, there's a dog. Yes, Victor is a human.
Sorry. Just want to get my facts straight.
Who's sorry? Just get out of here.
Oh, my mom just texted me to let me know that you're very funny.
Oh, thanks. Well, that's the other viewer. It's your mom. Hi. I'll try to watch my language.
But yeah, I apologize for the strong words.
She's about to leave. It's okay.
Okay.
But she just wanted to.
She's gonna oh god.
Okay, cool. So she sees you, and she's always been kind to you. And when I mean kind to you, I mean you've gotten into so much trouble that as a young scamp, you and your brother, that she could have turned you in to your father, who would have just been the worst. He's just
That would have been terrible.
He's been terrible. He's a very stern guy. He'll hit you with the back end of his broadsword and send you on your way. So.
Grab you by the back of the
So when
neck
she
and,
sees
like,
you,
shove
she
you
kind
through
of
the
gives
door.
you a nod, but her business there is like you only see her maybe at your manor once a year, and this would be the only time. So her being here, your father and her are not friends. He has such contempt for the new system that he refers to it, even though people have been abiding by the system for over 100, 200 years, as long as written memory. So since the the Forgotten Pact, which is like this ancient thing. So your dad's like this. It's real. I don't know.
All right.
He's not a big populist. I don't know if I can put it that way. He would like to have a little more authority than he does, and he feels it's his right. And he kind of sees that in you. And every time he talks to you, it always ends up being a conversation about how you're gonna be the person who brings order back. The things he couldn't do. It's always
It's your
he
destiny.
projects a lot.
Destiny.
It is your destiny.
And suddenly, we're the snake people.
Snake people.
Yanti.
Confused about the Magus thing because I was thinking Ferengi.
Yeah.
The Grand
Ferengi.
The Grand
Nagus.
Nagus.
The Grand Nagus.
Yeah.
The Grand Nagus.
Nagus.
Well, the rule of acquisition 34. That's good.
Jumped rails again.
I one time in a campaign, I literally, because no one watched Deep Space Nine, I made Gold Dukat a bad guy. I changed his name, but Gold Dukat's just like one of my favorite bad guys. Okay, cool. So yeah, as he comes in, he's like, Kendall, my lad, come talk to me.
Okay. And I will immediately head out to the balcony and kind of wistfully flip my slightly flowing blondish hair.
Oh my
Beautiful.
God.
and my lanky teenage form.
What's your
just kind of-
charisma score?
I'm
it's,
upset.
it's large. Well, it's only
It's
a
very
14.
large.
A 14.
But
That's
I'm
I'm
expert in persuasion.
okay.
Oh
So
my.
you're a good talker. So you got a little bit of a Ted Bundy.
A little bit.
Real handsome, real charming.
So
Probably gonna end up killing a lot of people over the course
lean
of
out,
this game.
lean out on the balcony, and
Yeah,
wistfully
and,
gaze out.
and he's like, one day, son, this will all be yours.
God, everything the light touches again, Dad.
He says, including the curtains.
Mm.
Double reference. Go ahead and have a hero point for Lion King and me when I was trying to Holy Grail you. He says, no, what he really does say is he kind of sits you down, and he is already drinking, which has been happening more and more often. He's in his 60s now, so he's, in all intents and purposes, he is retired.
Okay.
I mean, he still runs the place, but he would never answer a call of a disturbance, and it doesn't happen that often anyways.
Okay.
He says that today you're under strict restriction to the manor, or the castle as he calls it, because he's a goofball. He's stuck
Got
in
a big
nostalgia.
old ego.
He said he restricted the castle. He said that after you attend your lessons down at the schoolhouse, he says you're to come right back, and not to go not to go see the praetor, not to interact with that. He doesn't care for any of that tomfoolery, those shenanigans, those he calls Magus charlatans. And just for anyone watching, and for you guys, since you really are just learning this campaign, Magus is the only type of actual wizard in this setting. Magic is this is a low magic setting in the sense that narrative-wise, the characters are not used to experiencing a lot of magic because it does not exist in this part of the continent of the world. So Magus is a wizard who casts ritual spells. It's a lot like the spell slingers, spell whippers, spell somethings from Abilon. Doesn't matter. But they basically can cast a handful of spells as rituals, and they have no cantrip. They have a very limited spell attack. They can do a version of magic missile that allows them to basically fire one magic missile if they use both their action and their bonus action. So they're not super efficient, but like super awesome wizards. But they are the keepers of lore. Everyone else in this setting is kind of the humans are completely devoid of magic. I mean, no one uses magic. So
They sound like some punk ass bitches.
when a Magus would come to town of any stature, people are gonna like host them. So they might stay at the inn for free, or a well-to-do family might invite them in. This person is staying with you. He is the most important person in the human community.
Well, Mr. Fancy Big Pants.
And
So is it just his father who has this negative opinion, or is it people?
this would not be uncommon of reflective of at least the barons of this region, maybe other barons and lords of the human. But you wouldn't have really a way of knowing that other than your interaction with him personally. So your experience would almost only be firsthand. But you have heard it during like dinners and conversations. The baron is I mean, even now, while he's talking to you, he's talking about how you need to keep your eye on this town
On the
and
motherfucking
on
prize.
these people, because these people don't care about you, and they will take what's ours from us if you left them. So he kind of always talks about the public as like an enemy. He's a bit of a
serve them
yeah. He says him for what?
because of the pact, right? There's a pact. 3 something.
No. One second. I've got a question from audited moth, our good old friend. Hey, buddy. It is not limited. He's asking if Magus is limited to race. I would say it isn't limited to race, but for all intents and purposes, you're only going to find Maguses in the human part of the world. Once we meet the dwarves, you guys know a little bit about the dwarves. Dwarves have gunpowder. Dwarves have vehicles. Dwarves are a little more advanced. They're not allowed to bring any of that stuff into the human realm, but once we get up there, you'll see that there are magic users. So this is just kind of how humans. Yeah, so I guess you're right. I don't know why I told you no when you are completely right. Yeah. Yes, it is limited to race.
We're all learning together.
This is why I'm so happy to have you, Mr. or Mrs. Moth, gender neutral moth. We'll try to misgender anybody. Okay. Yeah, Maguses are limited to race, making that a rule. Because it's a hard process, and you have to be like you become an apprentice, and so it could happen. It just would be very unlikely. No, you're right. No, you are wrong. Dwarves could be them as well, because in the city there are definitely dwarf Maguses. Okay, I'm glad. I'm still happy. It is limited by background. That may be the better way to do it. Okay, cool. So he's like, I'm not. You're gonna go to school like normal. You're gonna come right back here, and when you're here, you're not gonna talk to him. They've already stolen your brother. They're not gonna take you.
You know that's not true, Dad. You said just a couple more harvests, and then I could go to Bastion.
I'll let you. You don't have any hero points yet, do you?
You gave me one. I will use
you
that.
want to use that? Okay. Yeah. So you say that, and he says, "Well, when I made you that promise, your mother was still alive."
Okay.
Oh wait, no, she died during
I
childbirth.
thought
She died during childbirth, didn't she?
That is.
In my heart.
Oh.
Wow.
No, he said when I made you that promise before your brother became ill. So basically, your brother Wendell he took your spot, and your father had made you that promise because of the guilt he felt for you not having your mother, and because he is a sweet, tender guy and he does love you.
Right.
He's not a monster, and he wanted to make you happy. But there's just, Wendell is not as strong. He's a
Wendleton.
You're not. Wendellioso. Wendell D.
Yeah.
No, I think I like the way that your name is what did I say it was? Kindlin. But his name is not Wendell. It's just what you call him. Wendell
Okay.
should just be a nickname.
Alright, that's fair.
Because I don't think your parent. I don't think that this old stick in the mud, Redmond would have named you guys Kindle and Wendell. It seems not. It doesn't seem in his
It's a
idiom. of
family
things.
name.
Yeah. Wendelow. Kindlin. Yeah, that's fine. He can be Wendelow. That's a weird name. They're old names. They're old
Indeed.
family names.
Indeed. There's the portraits just down the hall.
And twins are common in the family. So
Absolutely.
you're named after like very specific like ancestors.
Absolutely.
I like that. Okay, yeah. So he's like, Bud. He says, I tell you what. He's like, you can spend 1 hour in the bazaar. And he's kind of, so you spend a hero point, and he's kind of swayed
Okay.
by your plight. So he's like, you can spend some time there with your friends, but he says, but I want you to come back immediately. And he says, I'm serious. You don't have to speak to that man while he's in the house.
Someday you're gonna realize that I need to go out and see the world, Father, just like you did in the big kerfluffle that we were in.
He says, God willing, the sleeping God's willing, you'll never have to see any of those horrors. He says, here in the Heartlands, there are no grumpkins or trolls or schnabbles.
I don't think there are grumpkins anywhere.
I says I don't believe in any of that tomfoolery. He says we stopped that rebel uprising and we kept the people safe. And I hope you never have to never have to shed the blood of another one of your brothers or sisters. He says that is unless they come to take what isn't theirs. And he kind of like slams the last of the tankard he's drinking. He says, "Now leave me."
And I'm gonna leave.
Yeah, he's not.
In some semblance of teenage angstiness.
As you leave, you, like always, you kind of walk through his personal space. He's got a large canopied bed. It goes 12 feet in the air. It's huge, domed. I mean, this basically is a mini castle. It is a very nice. It's not technically a castle. It's still a manor, but it's humongous. It has lots of wings and rooms, towers, if you will. It's old. It is not the only old building in the space. As he pointed out, he made note of the edges of the kingdom, and then he pointed out the rook. He called it the old rook, and it's this derelict tower that's leagues and leagues away, but you can see it on the skyline, and you've always wondered about it as a child. It was always a thing that you were like, oh, I want to know about that. But he says, and like up until that, this is all of our land. And the relic he's pointing out is not uncommon. I mean, what little exploring you've done when you went on your hunting trips, there are ancient shrines throughout the woods that seem to form like signposts that lead to forgotten relics and ancient temples. Most of the words and the writings have been washed away by time, but these structures still kind of remain, mostly being lost by overgrowth and not by, the weather itself. They seem to stand the test of time. All right. Built by no one knows. No one can remember. And on the way out, as you're kind of about to get ready for the day, your eyes pass over the mantle and over what kind of weapon do you use?
The family sword.
Family sword. Oh, you already have a family sword.
Yeah, he
All
gave
right.
it to me.
All right,
at some
perfect.
point.
Then never mind. You look over and you're like, that's where the sword used to be. But I already have it.
See the little dusty
I
outline.
already
of the
have
sword.
that sword. All right, cool. Have a inspiration point. Is there anything, hero point? Is there anything that you want to do before, like, as part of your character or your narrative, before in this solo block before I throw you in with everybody else later?
I would be out looking for my trusty woman servant Philippa.
For sure.
Thanks. To head to
She
the square.
Yeah, she will be waiting for you downstairs with your books, and you're both going to be heading to the schoolhouse, which is required for all of the children of the city or of the township. But you have your own special private tutors, and you have access to those type of tutors as well. You would go to a normal class, but this is like getting to go to a special class. And there are a handful of like nobles that you kind of split time with. So you would have a group of people that you grew up with, mostly like cousins and like no one really that interesting. No one you could like you would have made friends with the regular kids because these would have been wafy little like inbred weirdos.
Yeah.
So
Cool. I'll run by my room on the way out and pick up Wendell's last letter as well.
okay.
And otherwise head on down.
Cool. As on the way out, you notice his copy of his favorite book, and you we'll call it the Battle of the Lost Age.
All right.
Colon.
Revenge.
Colon.
A perspective of the times of magic and might, warfare and liberty. Part 1.
Colon, the buttress of West.
Hey, you got a follower, Pokey Ping1. Hey, Pokey Ping1. Thanks for following. That's
Hello.
right. The little zombie ran across the screen and everything.
Hi,
Pokey
Chris.
Ping1. Pokey.
Penguin.
And as tribute, the book is by Penelope Pokey, who is a famous arcanist who just like studies
It's a famous penguin.
mystic things. Cool. So you head on out. You're gonna go to school.
Absolutely.
Cool. Let's work our way around the table then. Allison, what's your character's name?
Philippa. And the last name, since in tribute of your favorite scene from Solo.
Okay.
Her last name is Nokin.
Nobody.
No.
Nobody.
No fam. No, you said no kin?
No kin.
No kin, yeah. And that would be exactly, and it's spelled like one word.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what everyone who is born a bastard out in the human realm. That's what they call them. So
You're a Snow.
like Jon Snow, yeah. We're just taking that because that's fun. That being said, you have a special bond with a few people who also share your last name as kind of a de facto family. You never spent time. You've always lived in the manor, in the castle, but you've always lived in the servants' quarters. And as such, you have developed lots of relationships with these people. So you have a very strong sense of family, I would think, if only with the misfits.
Sure.
The halflings that run the household, all their names, which I could not say probably for Kindle over there. I'm not sure how into that kind of thing he is. You said Philippa?
Yes.
And you are good friends with an older half-orc named Oswin Millsong? No kin. She's a no kin as well. Oswin is her name. And she's not much older than you. She would be like, she's like a big sister type, not like a mother figure. But she's definitely been your like only other person other than your relatively recent friendship that you had budded with the Royals right before Wendell got sick. So I imagine that as you've spent a lot of time together and that kind of forced your bond, but I would say recently you guys have considered each other friends, even if you were afraid to say that to maybe your father, or like if he would say I'm walking with my friend to school, he'd say I'm going to go to school, I'm going to have my handmaid escort me or whatever, you know what I mean? So oh yeah, I can't say that.
No.
Damn, movies and TV ruining words. Okay.
What's the name of this town?
The town is the village of Weston. It's named after his family.
That's right.
And today she's extra like excited. As you guys are kind of getting ready for the day, you share a space together, and she's just talking to you about getting to meet the Grand Magus Victor Xanatos, because she's heard that he's the most handsome man in the blah blah blah. She's such a stereotypical
Precious.
best friend character that she's a slice of life character. This person, so she's not like that, and that's the read I'm going to tell you right now in the metagame, because of story stuff. Like you people here in the real world would find the interactions with the people in this land a little Pleasantville-y. It's a little
You guys
too.
have never passed the Bechdel test.
It's a little too convenient. So like her being like, oh, and it isn't, and I don't say that to provoke a sense of doom, but rather to illustrate that when I really give you control of your characters, and you get these new feats, they're gonna get this special feat. Not to spoil too much. That a veil has been lifted, and with it, a sense of curiosity and like genuine exuberance for adventure
cool.
that like defines humanness has been unlocked in you.
I like it.
So these or free will, not even humanness, just like just a sense of adventure. So she's talking to you. She says she's definitely going to go there. She does not go to school anymore. She works, and she says after work, she says she'll meet you at the the festival. She's downtown at the square, and to watch the fireworks show. The Magus always has a fireworks display, and there will definitely be troubadours in town, and all sorts of like wonderful things to eat. It's just gonna be a good time. So she's just really excited about that. I'll give you this opportunity to, I don't know, confide in her. Is there something about your character, like a secret or something that kind of itches? Because I'm okay with you guys having already that nagging, like, because of your age, it's like youth kind of pushes through this magic or whatever. So you can always be like, I want to get out of this place, or I'm not interested in this life, or it can be, I'm real happy right here, and this is great.
Well.
This is great.
I gotta think on that for just a second. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
I do want to get out of here. I do. I just decided. Yeah.
Cool. I like that. That's a good choice. Yeah. Everyone's so excited about this festival, and you're excited too, but not for the cotton candies and not for the tilt-a-whirls, but rather for you're excited because the Grand Magus is like the president. This is a person who's been to Bastion. Maybe you can at the very least join. If you wanted to, you could leave today. Like he's gonna leave. He's gonna leave at the end of the night. He has a stagecoach and like they sleep and ride and that might be. I don't know. This is a big deal. You might have been thinking about this for months. I mean, everyone's been talking about this day. So
got all these skills and better opportunities to use them. Because what's my actual future here at this point?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, the only connection you have is really the few riffraff that you kind of hang out with, and then the bond that you share. You've always shared with the royal family. It's just the two of you guys, right? There's no older sibling or anything.
It's just the two of us. And
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Did we decide? So for the watchers, Allison's character is a half elf, which is strange in this setting since elves are not a playable race.
Interesting.
What are you doing? Stop that, you weird dog! Get out of here!
Dog break.
God, dogs. Am I right?
We'll be right back after this dog.
After this.
What was I asking? What were we talking
We were
about?
asking
Half
about
elves.
half elfing.
So the half elves are not a and dog. The half elves are. It would be like significant. So something she hides, something she's not really proud of. Did we decide that you know your past or not?
No.
Okay.
No, and we don't even know what elves are. So
Yeah,
I just am a
for
human with very pointed features.
Gotcha. Pointy human, they call her.
Very pointy human.
Very pointy human.
Almost like a pokey penguin. Okay, cool. So
Poke.
yeah, so she's like, yeah, I'll meet you there. She's really excited, and she's so much so that she's trying to get a read on you because she's your best friend. She's your only other like equal because these guys don't treat you really well, even though you have moments of being more connected to them. Are you trying to hide this from her? This feeling? Have you talked to her about this?
I would not have, no.
Roll a deception for me.
Cool. This is different from my other sheet.
No, the dog's a ranger himself. We named the dog Ranger.
10.
She's like, what are you not telling me?
Not a thing. Just gonna go to this thing and have a.
You're gonna leave, aren't you? She's like, you're really gonna do it. She's like, no one ever does it, and you're gonna do it. And immediately from her tone, you can tell that she's supportive. She's like, go find your gold. That's something that she says all the time.
But
so,
you're not gonna tell anybody.
No. As a matter of fact, she says, well, if you're gonna go out there, she says, you probably will have better use of this than I would. And she hands you a small box. She says, but I wouldn't open it until, at least away from prying eyes. She says, this is something special to me, but she says, and she hands it to you.
Ooh. What's in the box?
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
Wobbity box.
Bam!
Wobbity box.
Mysterious box.
Kevin Spacey's integrity. What's in that box?
Is it in there? Or does it ever really
it's in his
exist?
doctor's head, spoilies. Okay.
Do you even know that?
What?
What was in the box?
Do you know what's in the box?
It's been, you've had enough time to watch 7. I'm gonna feel bad about spoiling.
Spoilers.
What? Damn it, man! I said no spoiling.
I was gonna watch it next Friday!
Okay. Anything else you want to do here? The last time you'll see your quaint little corner of the castle, where you've spent the last. How old are you?
I am a little bit older than him.
Like 18. How old are you, Nathan?
I am 17.
17. So you're 18.
Sure. That's not worry. I mean, can I be 19?
Yeah.
Cool.
Out of the question. How dare
That's fine.
you, first of all.
Get out of my D&D game.
That's it. Open call.
Monster.
Little note, in this setting, all 19-year-olds are dead.
Cool. So you take
Thanos
the box.
said all
and-
19-year-olds.
Hey, Tara's online. Hey, babe.
Hey!
What?
Thanks.
This is wild.
Um,
It's in the future.
So yeah, so you take the box and you head off and as soon as you're outside, Kindle's there and he's like, "You ready?" Because you've been like, normally you're waiting for him, but you had that moment where you waited and had that conversation with her, got an item of some sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. You guys, do you want to interact before you get?
Put this with the rest of my things.
He hands you the book.
I hand you a book.
Swell.
But he'll also send us another letter, and I'll slip you the letter as well.
Okay.
You also in your pocket you brought pastries for both of you guys. So he then hands you breakfast after he hands you a bunch of books.
Now that I approve of.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's the good stuff, the stuff you're not allowed to eat. So at least you're allowed to eat it if you went and bought it, but like here at the kingdom, they feed you and stuff. You are a there are no serfs in this setting, but you're a ward of this house for reasons no one's ever really explained to you, and everyone is always kind of weirded out by it. But the Baron decreed it, and maybe he's just being benevolent. He has that stroke in him, I believe, to be benevolent. Cool. Have a hero point. Did you get? Did I give you a hero point?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Have a hero point. We'll click over to Nicole real quick. Picture a black space with a creepy little breath, kind of like something inside of a cocoon. Okay, we're gonna cut away from Nicole. Have a hero point. Her character is a dramatic reveal, everybody. Cool, and so we'll cut out to the other side of town. As you guys head into town, the camera pans out and showing the sizable little village. It has grown with over the years a bit beyond what it was maybe when your father was your age. But as the camera pans back, we see that there are people coming into town from all of the 5 roads, and they're coming in droves.
Various crafts.
And various caravans kind of linked together. People are traveling the path. The saying is in this universe they aren't super religious because all the gods are said to be sleeping, but they do say that to stay to the path, and that's advice for the road. That's also advice for life. That's you're gonna stay to the path, and the path will guide you. So, but this is an important time. It's a special time. People are coming to the city to do a couple of things. One of the things people do on these pilgrimages, they come to drop off their firstborn children. So one of the things that you'll have to do tonight is sort a lot of paperwork for
Catch this baby.
You're going to be just like doing a bunch of boring stuff that your brother would have been so good at that unfortunately you have to do. And let's see. The ones are just trees. The trees are just woods. Cool. We cut to the other side of town to one of these caravans. The camera cuts to a dwarf with a big, thick mustache. He's like the dwarf. What's his name? What's the other big mustache? Sam. Elliot. Yeah. So he's like Sam Elliott if he was a dwarf.
Dope.
Dwarf makeup.
Dope.
No big beard. He's got a big like straw hat on, and he's got plain traveling clothes. And Bryce, what's your character's name again?
Yakha. Yakha.
Yakha.
There it is. Yakha.
Yakha.
Thank you.
I love orc names. Surprise! You're an orc.
I'm an orc.
Yakha, you hear your compatriot and your friend Boyle is his name. Boyle has Boyle Ironshanks.
Yes.
Boyle is he's been whistling and kind of talking to himself, and he's kind of like, "Are you awake? We're almost there."
Yes. Yes, I'm awake. How far out are we?
Oh, so we're about to hit the checkpoint of the town, and once we get through, and you know the knights that set watch here, he says we'll be inside town, and we can get you a nice comfy bed for the night. How's that sound?
I don't need
my
a
friend?
I don't need a bed. I need to hear the preacher. I need to listen to his voice and shake his hand.
He says, well, of course, we'll vote. We'll vote like all good citizens should. But but first, well, you're not. He treats you like the enfeebled old man that you are.
Yeah.
You know, you want to go straight to the thing, but he knows that you need rest. He's like, well, at least you need to get a meal first. He says, you're not. You know, I'm double your age, but you look like you're about to die. So.
Fine, but I'm not an invalid.
He says, well, I didn't call you an invalid, but you are blind, my friend.
Well.
And Bryce's character, yeah, he's blind. Does he wear like a?
Oh yeah, yeah, he's full.
bandana,
Yeah. He wears bandana pulled
Is
back.
it like a quarterstaff that he walks with, or
Yeah, he walks with a straight up cane.
with a cane? Gotcha.
But this is like before his like awakening as like his fighter, because he's a fighter. He's gonna be a samurai. So but he has his sword, which he got from his war chief in battle. The same battle he lost his eyesight. His war chief, as dying, kind of threw it to him, and it's this. It's not magic, but it's this
awesome.
This ancestral sword.
I'd say it's silvered, probably.
Cool. All right, and that's where
your family's sword is silvered as well.
But in that battle, he took an arrow to the eye, and then the other eye got gouged out in a last second fight, before the end of the battle. So
Cool.
that's where he lost himself, and now he's kind of just like trying to get his life back together. He spent a few years in the gutter drinking, and so this Boyle found him and nursed him back to health, and
He's like, we'll see the Magus, my friend. I promise you that. But first we need to make sure we get through this checkpoint. He says it's probably been a long time since these little country bumpkins have seen a man of my stature or a fellow of your height.
That's fair, but what stature? You're just a dwarf. You're like anybody.
He laughs. He says, I'm funny. Aren't you?
Hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been traveling for a while.
Forgot.
Moth just said, I used to be an adventurer like you, but then I took an arrow through the eye. Skyrim. Okay.
Would you like to buy something?
As swears, you have coin.
Hello, stranger.
Hello, stranger. I'm gonna put that guy in Murder Maze.
Please do.
Okay, cool. So so you're traveling, and they with that you hear the cart kind of wobble to a stop, and you feel it lurch, and you can hear footsteps of heavy clanging armor, as you can only assume knights are Like,
Can I roll a? I have perception. Can I use that?
roll with disadvantage
Okay.
because of being blind. Because you can't see stuff, son.
13.
Yeah, there are at least 2 sets of feet, maybe 3.
Okay.
I mean, but then there's also a lot of people like walking around. You can tell just by the amount of sound that wherever you're at right now, there are lots of other people being like inspected as well.
Okay.
And the voice is just like, "Do you have anything to declare?" They're just kind of like talking you through.
Cool.
They're doing big pat downs and lots of security.
Yeah.
Really, what they're doing is they're just checking. They're just making sure that everything seems in order. They stop for a second though, because he is right. They haven't seen an orc in a long time, and he kind of the voice directs his line of questioning not to you but to the dwarf, and it says, "It's awful long way from home to have an orc with you."
You can talk to me. I'm not deaf.
And then he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't sure. I get uncomfortable in situations. I go in that one. Yeah, uncomfortable situations like this. Yeah. If you guys are interested in the pavilion's going to be towards the center, he just starts skimming it. He's perfectly fine. There's no conflict there at all. Yeah, and it isn't like that. I mean, this isn't like there's just a lot of people, and they're trying to take precautions, but.
No, my character's just kind of
Yeah, but you guys don't have, your sword is packed away right now.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's no obvious weapons. You guys don't have a whole lot. The dwarf is carrying brandy that he makes, which is the reason that you found him in the first place. He found you in a bar outside on the dwarven spiders. So
cool.
Out in the cold, and he's just kind of kept you drunk for the longest time. Anything you want to do before he takes you to the inn?
To get food.
To get food and a rest before you guys go to see the Magus?
No.
Okay, cool.
No, that's...
Awesome. Well then go ahead and have a hero point. And we are going to take a quick 15-minute, well, it'll be a regular amount of time, 15-minute break, because you can't take quick timed breaks. But it will feel quick because we will be back, and then there will be more fun things to listen to us talk about. So stay tuned. Don't tune out. Tune it up. Tune back. Toontown.
Let's
Go
tune
pee
up.
yourself.
Oh God, I'm the worst. Okay,
Tune
we'll be right back.
Tuna.
Bumblebee tune up.
Transition, and then audio is out.
Roger that.
Hey, we're back. That was more than 15 minutes. Don't at me. I don't care.
At him.
At him, bro.
Don't at me, bro. Hi. Tara has
Oh my gosh.
joined us. She is in this one.
Hello.
Hello.
Tara in this campaign is doing something interesting. She's not playing a player character. She's helping me play like a. It's an NPC because we talk about the session before and afterwards,
I'm so
and
sorry.
then she runs this character with information I've
No,
given her.
I was just
but
gonna get in
she
your
also
frame.
runs it
Over there. I was
independently,
gonna, like, touch stuff.
independently of me during.
Because
the
I'm a
session.
child.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be
It'll
fun.
be a fun
But you're not
experience.
here
Okay,
yet, so don't worry about it.
Bye.
Okay, cool. So we cut back to the. Oh my god! That's a giant hand.
No, give me Lady Bird quick, so you can laugh at you. Laugh at me.
Or Ladybird. Yeah. There's a dog.
Hi, Ladybird.
Ladybird, you're out of frame. Just kidding. Hi, Rangy.
Very good.
We have a lot of dogs here. There's another dog.
She's like, this is my good side.
This is so interesting for the viewers. Hi, I'm glad they waited for this.
Nobody cares.
Okay, cool. So you guys are now, respectively, you've gone to school. You had your school day. It was a nice day.
It was really fun.
Actually, let's do a quick bit with that because I feel like you're probably good. You're other than maybe, was there anything you wanted to get from the schoolhouse specifically that you think might be advantageous in your day? Since this is a kind of an adventure, choose your own adventure style.
Advantageous in my day.
Yeah, I don't know. You grabbed that book from your brother's, not really knowing why.
Yeah.
Some maps.
Yeah. Let's get some maps.
Yeah, for sure. The only maps that are going to be available would be at your private tutor. They are technically your father's, which means you are not allowed to
I'd like to take them.
take them. At the end of the session, your teacher, Professor. No, I'm gonna use a name generator. I've decided that I will not.
Too much pressure.
Stuttering.
Or else we're gonna
I
end
will
up
no
with
longer
Professor
be just
Wangdoodle.
making up horrible names for characters.
Professor Wang.
I'm Professor Wangdongle.
Hi, Professor.
Random tables, please. Thank you. His name is Adonis.
Professor Wang.
Adonis Wangdoodle.
Oh my.
The esteemed Professor Wangdoodle.
He says,
Nice photo school.
and that concludes today's lesson in politics. The book closes and the scene opens. If you have any questions, I have my office hours and he starts shuffling. He's ready to go. The maps are kept in they're in scroll. They're nice scroll. Like we're talking like actual cartography. There are no printing presses in this part of the world, so these would all be like hand stitched or hand painted.
Are they like they're not gigantic?
There are some that are very big. They're all
smaller
they're
ones.
the ones that. What are you looking for specifically?
I'm looking for a map of the larger province, and then
Yes,
maybe
of the barony, perhaps.
of the barony,
Yeah.
and then probably a
Probably,
larger
yeah,
like,
for
kingdom
sure.
general
Okay,
map
cool.
thing.
You are able to find. Well, you know for a fact you've studied it, so you have a general approximation of these things. The house land map, so all the lands that are held by the house that your family works for, is in there, and it at least shows you all the places that you would be like that your family would be familiar with on the way to Bastion, and including Bastion, but the capital city and the only like great city.
Cool.
In the
That's
human.
what I want.
Cool.
I'm gonna take an apple out of my lunch kit and walk right up to the desk and plop that on there. Professor Wangdoodle, my father needs the house map. Would you mind if I take it?
Roll deception.
I
We
rolled a
got good
charisma.
Yeah.
That one.
Would you like a hero point?
You are not there. Yeah, you guys aren't friends yet.
Oh, yeah, I can't
You
get
share
that.
hero points. I think you might even have one though.
I do, and you know what? No, let's do this.
Okay.
Let's do this.
I like it. Lean into it.
I'm allergic to apples. And you would know that if you had read my memoirs, which are required reading for the course. He pulls out.
You know, I'd only made it to the first 2 chapters.
But you have a copy.
I do, absolutely. I read it every night.
What do you think of it?
First 2 chapters.
Well, it's been engrossing, and I read it before bed every night.
Roll me a deception.
That's all real.
That's all he needs it.
Seven.
I rolled that one. Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, my boy. Maps, you say, of the Regency. I don't know if that's right. He goes and grabs it, and he opens up he pulls out the key from his sweaty breast pocket, and he opens it up,
Pocket, like under his breast.
and always wear a money
Sweaty-
belt.
Sweaty
Safer that way.
underbreast pocket.
And he opens up his
I know
cabinet and he pulls out it's a fairly small tube with a scroll holder, and inside of it is it's a linen, like
Right.
you pull it out. It's made specifically for like overland travel and for like getting.
I will take the 2. Thank you so much. I can't wait to get back to chapter
Please have
3
those
tonight.
back in the morning.
Absolutely, Professor. And I'll hand it to Philip.
Cool.
I imagine Wang Doodle as Jim Broadbent, from the chief inspector from Hot Fuzz. The great big bushy beard.
Big bushy beard.
Yeah, take these maps, my boy.
Oh, I love that movie. Okay, yeah. So cool. So you guys make your way to the main pavilion where the Grand Magus is setting up and his assistants, and he has an entire entourage that travels with him. They've set up a makeshift circus in this area, and when I say circus, I mean only in like tone and timbre, but it's actually like traveling museum. He's got all these like artifacts and all this cool, like, look at all these amazing wonders. And you can even see that there's a banner and a big painted portrait of him, and it's just like this smiling. It's like that. Like, and he looks like Robert Downey Jr. It's got like an Iron Man vibe about him. Or I also like Jonathan Frakes, who is Riker in Enterprise. And his character's name is Xanatos, and yes, that's Jonathan Frakes played Xanatos in Gargoyles, the cartoon. That's character's named after that character. So
Don't at me.
don't at me.
I swear to God,
Lazy.
someone at me.
So yeah, and it's basically like it just says in common like victory, like it's just like propaganda stuff that the state has put up. It's just like here's you know. The Magus is in town, and you hear music, and there's dancing, and you smell delicious spices that maybe you've never smelled before, strange, interesting things. Maybe you weren't interested in the food before you got there, but you might be now. Because this is creatures unlike you've seen. There are orcs, like within this caravan. There's also the intermingling of all the peoples from all the different baronies from adjoining baronies. So there's a lot of people there. But the show is not started. It's just like this big round stage has all these tabards and banners of all the 9 houses, and then all the banners of the respective kingdoms that represent the pact. So, and not quite ready, but you guys are all now in the same place. Why don't you roll perception and see if you notice each other?
Even me.
Yes, even you.
Are
No.
all
Not I, right?
No, not you.
I'm just making sure.
Me? Quote unquote?
No, not you.
Okay.
It's gonna be hard for you.
are all of
Right.
my perception checks at disadvantage?
Actually, you know what? Roll me, Nicole. Roll me a perception check at disadvantage.
Dope.
Yes. Right now, Bryce, all your perception checks are at disadvantage.
Cool. Just want to make sure.
Ocho.
9.
Nothing?
Non-nat
No,
20.
I got
I
it.
know the accent.
10.
You don't hear anything other than your own gurgling. You notice them because you just like walk right into them. He's just like walking through, and he walks with a cane, but he walks the way a big orc would, like a big, strong, like sure of himself kind of person. Even
Yeah.
as a shell of his former self, the orcs are a like notoriously like stoic and stone-faced and put together people.
Mhm.
So, and when he knocks into you, I don't know. How's the prince react? How's the prince?
By the gods, man, look where you're going. And then I kind of stumble back about 2 steps.
And I turn my head up and I say, I apologize.
An orc! You hear a dwarf from behind you say, "Pointing's not polite. He's pointing at you."
Blind orc!
Boyle, it's fine. There's no harm done. My apologies. Your Highness?
I don't know if you know that.
Can I roll an
I
insight?
don't know. You wear fancy perfumes, I bet.
Can I roll it?
Do you?
You probably do.
I mean, I don't think of them as fancy perfumes. I just bathe.
Oh, then you totally do.
That might be the telltale that you're just bathed. That might be. Roll a perception this time with advantage because it's a smell check.
Smell check.
Trying to see if you can recognize anything about this person.
It smells rich. Or noble.
Dope. 19.
Yeah. You can tell that he smells better than everyone else, which means he's probably a trust fund baby.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to say, I apologize, Your Highness.
Perfect.
Quite alright, quite alright.
And he loves it. He's eating it right up.
I just kind of just bow, but I'm not like smiling.
So
I just
who
kind
are
of
you
like,
here to see?
I believe just like everyone else, the Praetor.
Oh.
I came to cast my vote and do
Boyle
my
kind of
do my
looks you one
duty.
over. He's hauling beer to a stand, and he's just kind of standing with him while he's doing his work, and so he just gives you the sneer, like he does not like the puns, but you probably don't care.
It also wasn't intended. It was
No, I thought you like accented it at the end. Were you here to see?
because I realized it was wrong. Carried through.
I do that all the time in real life. Not at blind people. No, not to blind people, but just I'm really good at putting my foot in my mouth.
Are you here to see the Praetor too, young prince?
Absolutely. Am I a prince?
No,
I'm not a
you're a lord.
Prince.
Yeah, you're a lord
I'm a lord.
at best.
Lean.
Nah. I don't think you're nothing yet, man. You're the heir apparent. That might be.
I like the way that
I'm
sounds.
that. I'm going to explain exactly what I am in a way that makes it quite clear that I don't know exactly what I am.
Great.
Very good. Why are you here?
Oh, well, we just got off from a good day's administrative duty, and we're here to see the Praetor.
Oh, there's no more administrative duty to do here?
You're at the school.
We left?
We're at-
Yeah,
we're at
you're
the
at
thing.
there's no administrative duty at the
Something about
festival.
counting babies later.
That's what I thought was happening.
What is?
The
You
counting of
mentioned
the.
something
Oh,
about
God, there's
counting
two of you.
firstborn children.
Oh, well that's just something that happens like right now. Like that's happening in another part of the city.
Oh, so we're not. He's not responsible for that.
No. You know,
Oh.
you're tonight. You're just gonna have to shuffle through a lot of paperwork. Yeah, all the not fun
That
stuff.
sounds fun.
Yeah, is what your dad's making you do. He's gonna go around and like like put his thumb in his belt and like tell people to do a better job and stuff because that's what he likes to do. But no, this would technically be you're already past your. What did he say? You could have an hour.
Sure.
Yeah, you're already like cutting it close to your hour.
Great.
Of. But I don't think you had any intention of following that. But anyway, so all right, cool. And with that, you guys are startled by the popping of fireworks and a shrill like as a burst of near magical glitter. It's not actually magical, but it's like a glitter bomb, and everyone's like, "Oh!" And it's like, "Ladies and gentlemen." No, it's not like that. Actually, how is it like? So you are presented a woman who looks like.
She looks like this. Her name is, her name is Winifred. Yeah, Winifred. Hold on, what was her last name?
Yeah,
Wickham. Winifred Wickham. I look like this.
Oh, I passed on.
Put it
I'm a
up
little
to that camera.
This one? That one?
No, this one right here.
Oh.
Pick a camera.
Flip
Any
those there.
camera. Winifred Wickham.
That works. There you go. Yeah, it's Alexa split out. There she is.
Alexa Spladell.
There you go. Cool. All right.
I look pretty displeased most of the time. As
As
Alexa
she does.
Spladell
Yeah.
does.
Okay.
Which
But
you-
I'm here. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so you just kind of like, with not, I mean, how much enthusiasm do you put forward when you announce his titles?
Oh, I get to announce it?
Yeah, for sure. That's
Wonderful.
happening right now. Here, I'll write that for you.
I'm gonna say like
I'll write you down exactly what he wants you to say.
great, as he would.
The Lord of Thunder.
Magus
Present
Apprentice.
Is great Magusness. George. The Grand.
You can call me Winnie.
Winnie.
Not very good at working the crown. Awkwardly introduces herself.
Here's my nickname.
And then just like back.
Get on with it!
Or don't give me those eyes.
She'll give him to you.
His high fluffiness, Lord of the Winter Doodles.
There you go. That was way too much that for this.
Yeah. They look a little weird.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once
You
the
can add
claws
anything
are
else you
drawn
want.
out, do you think it'll be different?
Yeah. I mean, I
Okay.
think they're a little.
Here.
They're supposed
Is
to.
it just a ball of magic?
Okay.
No,
Just
it's
like-
not very magical at
Oh,
all.
okay.
So you're on a wooden platform. It's more of like a show. The people are like literally like putting off fireworks. This is all like time.
I'm picturing
This whole
like,
production is put together so everyone ramps so that they'll want to go shake his hand
Yeah.
afterwards and like touch him and like vote for him. So.
yeah. I'm picturing like
Oh, I see.
what's that song? In Sweeney Todd?
You're not singing.
Oh,
Okay,
yes,
yeah, I think
I
once they're
am.
drawn out.
Oh,
yeah.
yes, I
I think
am.
once they're drawn
From
out.
behind the
it'll be
curtain, you
better.
hear, no singing, kid.
Come on. Good people of Abilon, may I present His Excellency Grand Magus Victor Xanatar! Lots of fanfare.
Yeah, and everyone does go ape shit, quite drastically.
Have you ever seen a crowd
everyone's-
going apeshit?
Everyone's super excited, and as that happens, the curtain drops and whoosh disappears. It's basically everything that this guy does that happens instantaneously has to be done like a magician would. So he is doing a lot of like old school magical illusion because all of the magic that he does is this long form ritual magic. He has a handful of like quick spells and a couple magic items, but he wouldn't want anyone to know that. So it's all this fanfare, and he kind of like music starts to play from an unseen source, and he gesticulates around, and there's fireworks that fire off, and as he kind of makes the motions of this very like planned and performed like sequence, and everyone really likes it. You guys can roll insight though to see if you really like it.
Do I have advantage, disadvantage?
You would have disadvantage because it's allowed,
I don't like it.
but you can still discern whether you thought this was like magic or not
That's chill. Okay.
because of your orcish background.
Oh my god, I'm rolling heavy tonight. Okay.
Damn.
You don't have to roll because you know exactly what's going on.
22.
22. Nice. What did you roll? 16. Nice.
22.
You don't even worry about it. 22. Yeah, you guys all were like these are fireworks. These are dwarf made. Like you've heard of these things before with your fancy educations and your world traveling.
Mm-hmm.
You know that this isn't exactly the way it looks. And he kind of he's like thank you. He's like my people, my good, kind, honest, hardworking, industrious What's another word for industrious?
Unequivocated.
Unequivocated. Thank you, Winnie. I don't think that's right. Anyways, welcome! Or you should say it to me!
Welcome!
Everybody else, welcome. Yeah, so it's just a lot of this, like, kind of like big top,
Circus
kind of stuff, and everyone's kind of eating it up. And what he does is his assistants and part of the caravan, they bring up these different objects, and as they bring them up, he kind of gestures to them and he says, "Ah, yes, this is the long sharp tooth of the vicious scaled sharp tooth, a dangerous predator to the lands far beyond the Dwarvish Isles." And then they bring around another thing, and it's like, "These dice once belonged to a mystic named the Unnamed Mystic." And it just says all this. And I don't know if you have any way of knowing whether you think these are real or not. I would assume that maybe based on, you probably say this is awesome, because don't you want to be a magus?
Oh yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, you're like, I want to be that guy. I want to be the very best.
Let's get closer.
No one.
Best
Yeah.
there ever was.
And as you say that, like he pushes you, and how do you feel about it?
I want to get closer as well, but for different reasons. Like, maybe this isn't very impressive, but this guy still might be a ticket out of here.
Yeah, for sure. You don't have to be impressive. Knowing how it works, can maybe you can use that to your advantage. Maybe you can say,
True that.
"Hey, I see what you're doing here, and I want in." You know what I mean? Cool. Well, how do you feel about it?
He doesn't like politicians, but he feels like this is part of his duty as an orc, is to not only protect but also ensure the people that are like in charge. Like he feels like that's important to be a part of that choice. And so, but he thinks that politicians are puffed up windbags.
But he feels comfortable voting for. Yeah, no. Just from backstory, he's been the preacher for a while now.
Right.
For at least almost a decade, and during this time, there's been no issues. Violations of the treaty, no undue invasions. I mean, everyone's been fed, no starving.
I mean,
children.
he's here to vote for him.
Yeah,
like
okay,
that's
cool.
what he's here for. But
So you feel unchanged. You might even enjoy the music, and for a minute you feel like, oh, these people, they're not looking at you.
No,
they're not.
yeah.
They're you're part
It
of the
feels
crowd.
nice. Like
Yeah.
he's still kind of like hanging out with them, I would assume. Yeah, I mean, but then at some point he may have been like.
Yeah, because Boyle keeps handing out his brandy that he's made. He's like, prayer to say brandy. Well, Boyle's brandy, and he's like handing it out like to everybody, so you guys can even like be sipping libations.
Absolutely.
My character doesn't drink anymore.
Roll a yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, he's like, you're like, oh, no thanks.
You know I don't drink Boyle.
Anyone with sight, roll me a one of you two guys. Roll me.
Anyone at the table. Anyone at all.
Don't have anybody that can see.
Roll me a perception as you're drinking your brandy, or perhaps just looking at it. Maybe you're not drinking it.
It's pretty brandy.
11.
17 percent.
You're so like eye locked on this god of a man that he's gorgeous. Yeah. I could be him. You very quickly.
Deep
Very deftly. He's doing these gesticulations and like these finger guns, and as he's doing these magic gesticulations, you see his hand go up his sleeve, pull out a flask. He swift back and he angles himself so only you can see him because of where you guys are. You guys are kind of up on the side of the stage, you can already tell that he's a little drunk. This guy's a little drunk, and he says, "All right, I've got one more magic item to show you all." And everybody have a hero point. He says, "This is Jim. Acquisition.
Yeah.
Acquisitions Incorporated. I've only watched a handful of episodes, but yeah. I think.
Wow.
And he's like,
Too much confidence from last catch.
he's like,
Last time I caught
he's
something.
like, bring out the item, and when
Wait, 2 years ago?
when he says this, you know he's drunk because he said everything that's on the list. The only thing that's not on the list would be the item that you guys came to town to collect that's of utmost import. It's not part of the show. Everything in the show is either a derelict or an actual artifact, or it's just made up. The anything of actual magical importance would not be on display at a festival.
Okay.
So he's a little drunk.
A little drinky pants.
So he is showing the magic.
He wants to bring out what he's been calling the dragon egg.
Oh, don't do that.
I see what's happening here.
I am the boss. You are not the boss.
But
and
you told me that if you were ever going to do something like this, I should say, sir, I don't think it's a good idea. We've got to keep the magic under wraps. You're not in the right mind to go showing.
What's in the box?
And he goes, I won't hear any more of it. He says, and he's gonna roll a perception. He's a little too drunk. He says, no more, kid. He says, go get it, and you can tell that he needs it. So you run off to go fetch that, and or rather to collect people to get it, because it's this big thing in a crate that you're supposed to be shipping. You guys, everybody, roll me a perception. You don't have to roll this one with disadvantage. This one can be a danger sense one.
Holy shit.
Go ahead and roll 2. Roll with disadvantage.
13.
21.
21.
You guys both can sense that a group of what did you roll over there?
12.
Nothing. You just hear dirt. You can have another hero point though. Just being a cocoon. 2 hours I haven't let her play yet. I just realized that. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
We're about to find out.
I understand.
There is a group of townspeople beside you, hoods drawn. You both sense that they are about to pull daggers and rush the stage and try to attack Xanatos.
Where are these people?
They're like right behind you guys. They're like pushing up. They're trying to push up between you guys to like get there.
Do I know they have daggers?
Yeah, you hear the blade. They're being extra stealthy. It's their precision and their expertise that you're recognizing. It's the old battlefield view.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're like someone's moving too deftly.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you just straight up like this guy like bumps into you and he's got like a scar on one eye and he kind of like glares at you and like you can see he's reaching for a knife. He like makes eye contact with you and is about to move.
I would like to spring forth and tackle the guy on the stage backwards.
Yes.
Cool. Like onto the stage.
Wait, who are you
guy
tackling?
The
Xanatos.
Oh, you want to jump onto Xanatos and like knock him out of the way. Yeah, perfect. Cool.
straight back.
Awesome. Yeah. So you get up on the stage. Go ahead and make me a athletics. Why are you? Is she strength based or dex based?
Dex.
Make me an acrobatics check.
15.
Okay. Cool. You jump up there. Xanatos sees you and he twists to move out of the way, but right as you're about to make contact with him, he sees behind you that you he sees the guy with the knife. And when he everything's in slow motion right now. You're like in the middle of with directing these guys with this big crate, and one of the as you're falling onto Xanatos and hitting the deck, they drop the crate.
Oh no.
And when the crate drops, your manor explodes on the top of the mountain.
What?
And everyone's like, what? And debris has fallen into the town because it's kind of up on this hill. And the crate cracks open, and everyone make me a dex save, please, including you, Winifred. Xanatos.
Oh.
You're already on the ground. I need to write down his names.
Damn.
You can change one save a day.
Philippa.
No, not yet. I don't think.
Yeah, and did I say dex save?
Yeah.
Yes.
Con save. Sorry. Add your just same roll. Constitution modifier. 14.
14.
Natural 1.
You're fine. What did you roll?
Natural 9.
You're just gonna add 4 to everything.
To everything. 13.
Okay, you all are knocked unconscious.
No. That's awesome. Says this music.
This music's like, yeah!
Unconscious.
Yes.
Knock me unconscious.
Good.
Let's sing.
Well, I've got real sad.
Wrong.
It's a weird mix. I don't know how to feel.
Don't judge my dreams.
Can't control it.
Where's the creepy music? Where's creepy music, Dan?
What a creepy music at?
What's happening with my phone? Whatever, this music's fine. I don't care. It's just kind of loud.
It is a little
I'm
loud.
trying to turn it down. I don't want the stream to hear it. You guys aren't allowed to hear the music. Music. Yeah. Oh my god.
Okay, we're committed to waiting until you fix this.
We have to wait.
Dance break.
Okay. Wow. It's a good dance. Let's look up everyone's dancing. Alright, okay, cool. So, 3 things happen. Xanatos, as he's hitting the deck, throws out his hand, and as he does, a near invisible dart arcane force, like, fires out of his hand, and takes that guy with the knife, takes his head clean off. Just
shit.
Like, he kills that guy. And to protect himself and you, because now the guy was like jumping onto you. He then takes you and rolls you like on top of you as debris is flying everywhere, recognizing that you are a townsperson and not a bad guy. You're the first to wake up, and as the rest of you, you realize you're only knocked out for only a second. And you all kind of lay around on the ground. Xanatos is kind of like getting himself like righted, unclasping his cloak and yelling directions at Winifred, who's your hair's all like askewed. And the crate is all but destroyed, and there is this like big gemstone chrysalis that has been cracked open, and standing in this foggy magicy mist is
Opal.
Opal. Go ahead and describe yourself.
Well, I'm Opal. I was just born in this world. I really don't know what the fuck is going on. You're all standing here looking at me. I'm not really sure, and I feel like I might scream out of panic because I don't really know.
So Opal is a gemstone dragonborn. In this setting, there are no proper dragons. There are no chromatic dragons. There are no metallic dragons. There are no like prototypical evil dragons. None of the typical fantasy dragons. There are a race of gemstone dragons. I am using a ton of stuff from Matt Colville's Strongholds and Followers for this campaign, viewer, and this is one of the things that I loved. It was just a cool. It's like she's this spindly, thin, like lizard-looking person, but
Got some art I'm working on.
awesome.
I can't reach that.
Here, hold on. Let me switch to the. You can put up this one. Give me 1 second. She's working on that. That's pretty cool.
Sweet.
Okay.
I
The
like the opalescence.
Thanks.
she
It's
has
real
the
nice.
noticeable features. Obviously, she stands kind of short, right? You're like 5'7",
I'm 4'7" at the moment.
so she's very small. Partially due to her age, partially due to the fact that gemstone dragonborns just do not grow to be very big, unlike Forgotten Realm dragonborn, which are like big lizard people. She has craggy gemstones that are like opal. She has all these different colors running through them, and she, she's fresh and she's new, and she looks around at all of you, and I'll give you your character back in a second. She looks around at all of you, and she says something in a language that nobody here should know. No one can speak Draconic, correct? This language is dead. It is a dead language. And when she says it, her eyes light up and open, her mouth opens, and you are filled with a
jig.
A one up.
You are filled with a supreme, sense of self-worth and adventure. It is the most warm and, righteous feeling you've ever experienced in your whole life.
All of us?
I've never felt
Righteous!
Righteous.
No, not you. Sorry, Winnie.
Sorry, I'm still trying to get this shit out of my hair.
Here's my NPC.
It's
You'll get
okay.
the cool stuff.
See ya.
I'm teasing.
Bye.
Bye.
And with that, you feel yourselves rising to your feet without even knowing that you are. You have your hand on your family blade that, for the first time in your life, you are not carrying around to be a little pompous little dickhole showing off your family sword, quite literally. No one else can carry swords in the town except for you. That's
God, I hate
that's,
you.
You see, you feel yourself. What was you're a fighter. You were a champion, right?
I think eventually it'll probably be a...
Oh, you're a fighter. You're a first level fighter, right?
Right.
But now you feel your muscles harden. You feel your body I don't know, change. It's like Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 1.
Yes.
You're quite literally, you went from a chubby, skinny guy to a kid with a kid's body who gets to eat whatever he wants to a hardened hero. Go ahead and increase your charisma score by 2.
Ooh.
You're just better looking now.
Ooh, so fancy.
That's really cool.
When you also gain prestidigitation as a sensory effect, allowing you to make your hair and your clothing look cool and epic whenever you want it.
That's amazing.
But only for that. You can't use it for other sensory prestidigitation
For
effects.
glinting my smiles.
Yeah.
But as you stand, you draw your blade, and without even thinking, you bring it up, spin it around, and just bring it down on one of the other bandits, one of the 2 guys there.
Okay.
Just delivering a swift justice, and then you feel yourself kind of come back to, and you're like, what the fuck? You might even drop the sword, because you've definitely sparred before, and you've fought some animals maybe, but have you ever fought a person? You ever killed a person before?
Never killed a person, and what I'd like to do instead of dropping it is go back to being a little bit more of a kid, and with a shaking blade, because I assume this draconic thing is very alien and somewhat threatening besides the sense of purpose. And so shakingly, and my voice will crack, which I don't think I can do on command.
Oh, yes,
but
you can.
Oh, yes, you
I'd
can.
like to see you try.
I can just turn into Mickey Mouse. By order of the House of Weston, stand down.
He says to you, Opal.
What is stand?
And then you hear Xanatos get up behind and say, oh God, which way's down? And he stands up and he says, and he looks over and he's like, oh my God, you're real. And he's starstruck. And you instantly recognize that you are no longer traditionally blind, that you now can sense every other person in this circle.
Mm-hmm.
Within, what did he say? We said 60 feet of you have
You
creature
said,
sense?
yeah, you said creature sense of 60 feet and blind sight of
Blind sight 10 feet.
10 feet, yeah.
Yeah, so for sure. So now it was like you were out of focus. You thought you were unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And now the world came into focus and then came into hyper focus.
Mm-hmm.
As Xanatos is saying this to the Gemstone Dragonborn and shouting orders at Winnie, you guys both take a second. I would even imagine, Philippa, that you grab him and shake him and point back up, because the castle is it's not all gone. It didn't blow up completely, but a big chunk of the outer wall is just missing.
Yeah, this is cool enough, but we need some answers.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead, as you're shaking your sword, roll me an insight.
Nat 20.
Nice. You know without a shadow of a doubt that you have to protect this thing.
Okay.
You don't feel scared of it. That sense of joy and like purpose and like radiance, it's coming from her.
Okay.
And it's unlike anything you've ever seen before. This is all unlike anything you've seen before. Your attention is, as soon as after you have that feeling, she snaps you back out. The place is blowing up. Should we do something about that?
So it's still like actively blowing up.
It's like, well, now it's a fire and people are yelling. You hear people yelling beyond the end of like the street, the pavilion, wherever we're at, this like town square area. And out of an alleyway, you hear like wretched screaming, like people like their lives are ending. And before you can even really react, maybe just enough to like right yourself if you're prone or something. Out of this alleyway, you see a body just thrown 100 yards, and it lands maybe 30 feet away from you guys, just on the ground. And you hear a horrible noise that comes from this dark alleyway, unlike anything you've ever heard. This like reverberation.
Were you the only one who got cool things from the Good Feelings?
What do you mean?
You got all Spider-Man-y and stuff, and like we're just here.
I don't know. What do you want to do?
I don't know. I felt good feelings. I'm like,
You
I
feel
want to
good
explore
feelings.
these feelings.
What is your inclination to protect these people, to charge into adventure, or is it to protect yourself?
charge into adventure.
All right, cool. So as soon as you hear that noise, you feel like he did, the urge to strike down a dangerous foe. You also feel that urge to protect. And game pause. With your flavor, what do you get at level 1 as a druid? You get spells, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You don't get shape change, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. What spells you got?
Speak with animals, healing word, entangle, and
Or
absorb
absorb
elements.
Cool.
And then Shillelagh Druidcraft.
You start running up to attack, and as you look down, you see that this person that was thrown is still barely alive, and it's almost like too much for you to bear. It kind of breaks you out of this moment, and you have healing word. You said
Yes.
you bend down instinctively and like hold them tight, and when you do, you whisper a word in Draconic, which you do not know yet, but you will learn. This being the first word, and that's kind of how your spells work. You like pull on these ancient words of power, and that's how your druidness functions. The gemstone dragons are integral to the very land itself. They come from it. They made it. So you do that, and when you do, her neck, which was like broken and was all fucked up, kind of like, and it's the baker's wife. You saved the baker's wife from dying.
Nay.
And,
oh my gosh.
And the woman looks at you and
Hero.
she's like, Philippa. And she goes, ah! Behind you, and as you you react, you turn around. What weapons do you have? Longbow? Shortbow?
Shortbow.
You instinctively pull your short bow and pull up on your back as this creature that stands 9 feet tall, that has milky white rubbery flesh.
Is it milk?
Milky white. You said milky white. It's the baker's wife. Into the woods. This creature has six arms, all of which don't have hands, but rather sharp, bony protrusions. And it doesn't have a head so much as it has just a big gaping hole at the top of its torso. And it's horrifying looking. You can make an attack on it if you want to.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, go ahead. You guys have full access to your character sheets now. You're full of things. Your Fate Struck feature is in full effect. And we'll just wait until someone uses it to explain what it does.
Cool. While that's going on, I want to run back to the cart because now I like
You're real close to it, yeah. So it doesn't.
I have like a moment where I hold this cane and I throw it down because like all my kind of same thing, like my muscles all wake up and it's like I feel like my training kicks back in. I run over to the cart and I just like quickly like have my blade out and it's in the sheath.
Yeah. You grab the blade and before you can move, an arm grabs you. It's on the ground. We're gonna go back to her real quick.
Okay.
10. The 10 it hits technically,
It hit.
but the arrow like hits like almost like wet paper mache, just sits inside of it and then slowly starts to be absorbed by this.
Not good.
Not good. It rears back and it's going to try to strike you with its humongous form. Go ahead and make me a dex save to jump out of the way. As you grab your sword, an arm pulls you up, and it's Boyle. He's got it
Can I use a-
down. He's dying, and he looks at you and says,
That works. No, because it's a save.
I like grab him. I'm like, no, it's very dramatic.
"Yeah, he just dies."
Yeah.
Oh, and you're just weeping.
Yeah, it's really dramatic.
What do you do, Opal? There's a big, horrible creature over there.
Are we playing a game? Is this fun?
Xanatos yells at you. He says, "No game." He says, "That thing wants to kill us. That thing's gonna kill you. We can't let that happen."
I feel like I would kind of like just look down for a second and look at my hands, and then just and then chaos bolt at it.
Nice.
Not really sure what it is.
Is that a
Just
spell attack?
yes,
for
it is.
Cool. You should roll for the damage type each time.
Yeah, that's what you do. It's part
yeah,
of it.
you have to. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, never mind. Fun idea. That's just a thing.
23 to hit.
That hits.
Okay, I actually need to get Xanathars out.
This is gonna be amazing.
You
no one's
roll-
seen this
you
kind of
roll
magic
two
ever.
D8. One of the D8 you signify.
Yeah, I know how it works. I just gotta look up the chart.
Yeah, I know
Maybe,
how it works.
maybe I'm explaining to the people at home.
Well, you can if you want to.
Yeah, I
Want to
know.
now.
I had a wife.
In the meantime, I did not do so well in that deck save.
Let's roll.
A 6.
Oh, God.
Splat.
I will let you use your new Fate Struck feature to
Do it!
to succeed.
Okay.
As
Ah.
you, this thing comes
Jimmy,
down on you.
away.
You do
Hold it, Jimmy.
like tumble to the side and dodge out of the way. But right as it's about to
No, you're
come
fine.
down
Thank
on
you.
you, Opal unleashes this chaos bolt and it causes it to push back, and you're able to make that dex check automatically.
Okay.
Nice.
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 Does it
And the only thing with that is that I just can't use it again until.
Can't use it until you take a long rest, and you can't use the other one until you take an extended rest. That's a full week.
Cool.
The other part of it's if you miss an attack, you can make it a critical hit instead. You choose to hit.
Great hit.
Great hit. All right. What did you roll over there?
Force damage. So I literally want my scream to just be so loud that it's just like pushes him back, but just him.
Awesome.
I want most of my magic
doesn't do
to
it-
be audio.
And
side
this thing
note.
is large size. Okay, that's cool. I like that because like
Especially the psionic
crystals
stuff.
all vibrate and yeah. So you kind of scream and it pelts him with this force energy, and it's almost like kind of crushing it, and it kind of like roars, and as it roars, it like pulls its mouth like apart, and as it does, inside of it, at first you think maybe it's bones or guts. It looks like an explosion, but what it is it's smaller creatures. They're all these like bipedal humanoid creatures. They don't have eyes. They have large sets of flat teeth, like herbivore teeth, not sharp, pointy teeth. And they jump out. And thanks for the explanation. That's funny. They jump out, and this thing is dead now. Its only job was to have these things come out. And as they appear, there are now 40 of these things that were inside of it. They're not as big as people. They're about half the size of people. And they instantly start attacking, just clawing at all the people around them. And what you see happening is that they're literally like attacking and worming their way into the bodies of these people.
Ugh.
So the people are being infested by these flesh creatures.
Oh God.
You hear, you see Xanatos. He mumbles something to to Wilfred, kind of off screen. Roll me a perception check. All my peeps. It's sound based, so you can roll with advantage.
Nice.
21.
19.
5.
22.
Okay. You three all hear him specifically say that something about taking the kids to safety. They're special. He says, I'll hold off the all flesh, but there's too many of them. You got to get them out of the city. And he looks at you and he like snaps his fingers and he's like, don't, like, gets real like stern with you.
Okay.
And he pulls out an amulet and he hands you the amulet. And he says, just take them to the road and I'll meet you there. And with that, he like runs off and starts like being like a real badass all of a sudden. So he went from being like this huckster, like kind of charlatan type, to get everyone on his side and get them to vote for him. But all of a sudden, he's whipping out like their special brand of magic missile that does extra damage but does less of it. And he's got other magic items. He pulls out a wand at one point and like unleashes a firebolt, so like he can cast cantrips out of it.
Oh, cool.
So. And he starts kind of like whipping around, and if you guys don't start moving, he starts screaming at you to go. And when he starts screaming, you'll grab him and
come on, follow me.
So you guys have two options. You can go with Winifred directly out of town and make your checks to get out of town. Well, I guess you have more than two options, but the two obvious options are go with Winifred out of town and just run with her. 2, try to find the people you love and save them. Or any alternative.
So are we in a town square-ish situation?
You are right now, yeah. And so you're basically equidistant from any place you need to be in town, outside of town, or up to the tower to your family's manor.
And there are wagony things and such, and alleys coming off.
Yes, but the force of her chrysalis opening basically destroyed all the buildings and all like the caravanning stuff in this area. It didn't hurt any of the organic life, but it destroyed all the non-organic life.
Flat.
Like difficult terrain, flat, like natural disaster.
So basically, would be looking for a narrow area to guide these townspeople, who I view as my charge.
Yeah, for sure. You're
immediately trying to force them into this area so that we can actually stand a chance against this tide of things.
There's enough places that if you can help direct them, you can just get them out of this square. There's only a handful of these creatures right now. And as you start to do that, you start directing them where they want to go. And they listen to you, like instantly. Like they see you and like they're bleeding and they're like, okay, and they're all in shock. So as you guys start to guide them, that you can do that. But then when he comes up to you and give them hell because you can't stay here and help these people. These people are basically dead.
You can't stay here. You can't help them. You have to come with me.
I'm gonna haul you away.
Die.
Yeah.
Probably.
And so I'll direct 1 or 2 more, but eventually I'll get tugged backwards. Particularly when she reminds me that the castle's been hidden, because I will want to go there to check on.
For sure.
Dad.
Yeah, and if you guys start heading up towards the path that leads up to the castle, past like the Hall of Records and the jail, like all the basically all the functional like city stuff is up close to the manor, so that it's easy for your father to it all moved. As you guys get closer up there, you notice that there are more of these small creatures.
I was gonna. Is Boyle dead?
Huh?
Boyle's dead.
Boyle's dead, dude.
Who's Boyle?
Boyle's his dwarf body.
Okay, well then I'm gonna go and guard her, because that's like.
Guard who?
Well, I just wanted my character's motivation is to protect her.
Gotcha.
This one.
Gotcha.
That's why I'm going with you. I just think that's important because I'm not like, I don't know you guys. But
yeah, well, and the other thing too is that every one of these people, not only do you can sense other creatures within your radius.
Yeah.
They shimmer and shine with a light. It's a physical light that you can see in your eyes. The first color, and it's like this iridescent, beautiful, like shimmering color. It's like you can see their very souls, and it's the only thing you've seen since you lost your sight.
And like hers is like, is it opal?
Hers is specifically.
Cool.
You can tell that whatever her presence is doing is reflecting on them, but it isn't. It's like
Okay, in that moment, that's part of my character's purpose he thinks that this is some kind of divine being, and he is the guardian. So he's gonna run up to her and stay very close. So,
what's your class again?
fighter, samurai.
Fighter samurai.
Well, not samurai yet, but
Yeah, not yet. I'm getting excited. Cool. Yeah, and as you guys start to take off that way, you hear more just general bedlam as one of the buildings that's already kind of pushed over. This creature that's not quite as tall as the last creature, but like as wide, almost gorilla-like, comes pushing out of the space behind it, not out of the ground, but like behind all this debris. And its armor is made of like dense bone plating, and you can see teeth all along the edges of it. It's almost like mock knight armor. It's unsettling how much it looks like a knight. Roll a perception. Just this one. You're the only one that's close enough to it. Anyways, you guys have already. It's a good 60 feet away from you, and you're a little bit behind them.
Just regular.
You go ahead and have advantage. Yeah.
Okay. Dope. Not nat 20.
Whatever this creature is now, it was that nice knight that you talked to outside of town, but something else has taken it over and has changed its flesh.
Oh Jesus! Okay.
And it is no longer owns its flesh. So, and this thing's horrible. It's got this big bludgeoning weapon that looks made of bone and sinew. This is not a thing that you would feel comfortable trying to fight even a little bit. It is so far out of your league that if this was like a Forgotten Realms campaign, I would just have you guys fight it. But since this is like a fun narrative-driven game, your characters would know, oh shit, this is a running sequence.
We need some firepower.
This is a chase.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to make your way up to the castle, Winifred will protest, but she will just follow you, keep trying to convince you to not do this. But why don't we go ahead and we'll do a skill challenge. You can use any skill you want in the skill challenge. You just have to be trained in it, and it has to make sense. And part of this like quick scene, you got to just paint me a quick scene.
So as we're going, if we go by townspeople who are still alive, I'd like to direct them to somewhere that we know about in the woods.
Yeah.
That's a general.
There are quite a few temples outside the woods.
Right, somewhere in the direction of
For
the
sure.
Rook, because we heard that as well when they were saying it.
The Rook
That's
is
where I'm
a
trying to get
a while away,
Right,
but it would be smart to like drop that.
Right, like drop a directional location to send townspeople, because I don't just want these people to get murdered.
Okay, cool. Yeah, they do that. Go ahead and roll a persuasion.
Let's see, 20, not natural.
Awesome. The people, although freaked out, you've got this like command to you.
Right.
This moment, this is a very this is one of those rise to occasion moments, and you have this supernatural force flowing inside of you. So you speak with a command that they don't. They're like, yeah, of course. I mean, they look at their stuff. There's a few people that are like just kind of gone, like, where's my baby kind of people. Like, you can't really do anything for them. But anyone who's clear-headed will basically like, oh yeah, and I'll tell other people. You got it for sure. And because they all know. I mean, these people know you, right?
I get out, and I like to think I'm a person.
Yeah, and right now, these people are thankful for you. So, cool. That works. That's a success. Go ahead, have a hero point. We'll just walk around the table. What do you do over there, Philippa?
We're just trying to get up.
So we're in a montage of running up the side of the outside, the edge of this town. There's this big like mountainous crag that this manor is built on, this small castle, and you guys are making your way up through the town, and you just need to make me a check based on a skill that you're trained in, and you just got to paint me a cool little scene while we're going through there.
Okay. Not appropriate.
Do you know of any animals? If you make the story.
There are animals.
Very large deer around.
Few things. This makes sense because you're already you're sensing animals. It's like it was white noise at first, and now it's starting to fine tune. You can't actually tell where the animals are, but I'd say that you have a general sense. You can sense that. Well, for the first time, you're not looking at a city as just a place full of people. You're aware of the rats In the cellars, you're aware of the birds flying overhead. If you want to speak to an animal, or you want to use handle animal.
I was
Do you have speak with animals as a spell? Does it cost you a spell slot to cast?
Yes.
I'll let you cast that and roll a animal handling or persuasion, whichever's better for you. But you got to tell me what animal it is and what you stop.
Yeah. Are there large deer? Is that a?
There are no deer inside the city right now. You're looking at
horses.
There are some horses.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and there are also like some. There are a few like exotic type animals that have been lost from these caravans. So no deer, but there might be something like that you would see like at a zoo or.
Like an elephant.
Yeah, like there is an elephant somewhere in the city. It's not around you right now, but.
But there is.
New quest.
What about a zebra?
There is a zebra.
Okay.
Their cage is actually like as you guys are running, you're feeling all these animals in your head, and the zebra's cage, the wagons, it's very much like in Dumbo, just like one of those stupid cages on wheels. It's all like crushed, and they cannot get out. The door will not work the way it should. And they're like freaking out. They're starting to like trample each other. So go ahead and make an animal handling check to like calm them down.
Okay. 6. But I can use a.
You can use a hero point on that.
I will do that. I will. I'm into these zebras. I want to do things for them.
Do it.
I want the best for you. I want the best for you, zebras. Yeah. 19.
Yeah, they calm down almost like immediately, like horse whisper style. You're just like, and once again you find yourself speaking in a language you don't understand, and you're like, huh, that's weird, but it works. And as soon as they do that, you're able to get them to step back, and actually the panel that you need to move was only being blocked by them, and you're able to get them out of there, and they just kind of run off unless you like. Try to wrangle on. I don't think so. I think
Okay.
all
right.
Any animal that would be in this city after you guys leave this place can be found in the countryside later because they don't just magically disappear. So if there will be an elephant living in the woods outside of the city if it gets out of the city alive. So
that's great.
Have a hero point. Yeah, that's great. Okay, Opal, you just got legs. What are you doing?
I feel like everything would just be amazing to look at. So I may even like be down on the ground checking out like flowers and dirt and just be like, ooh.
Make me a perception. No. Are you trained in insight?
Yes.
Roll me an insight. Because you're down and you're looking at all, and they're beautiful and they smell wonderful, and
12.
You feel the ground shake, and you feel the crystalline scales that you have, and the little jagged shards kind of vibrate, and you hear a voice say, "Calm yourself, child. Run." And it is
Did you
a
guys
voice.
hear that?
It's a voice that you instantly recognize and are like, "Yes! Oh yeah, it's Eldis for sure. You know it. You know it in your heart." And that sets you on the path, and after that, you're like she's at the front of this line of you guys running.
Hauling ass.
Yeah.
Did you say Elvis?
It's
Eldest.
Eldest. Okay.
Hey, little baby. So you gotta get yourself a moving there, honey. Hey.
There's a whole lot of shaking going on.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely Elvis.
Yeah. It's definitely Elvis. It's Elvis.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that works. Get a hero point as you make your way up. Who are you the last one?
Yes.
Okay, cool. What do you want to do in the skill challenge?
I'm gonna just do a good old fashioned perception.
Cool.
I'm gonna try and with my new senses like reach out and see what's like the best path for us to take since I don't rely on sight. It's like beyond
For
streets
sure.
and walls.
And that's
stuff.
good because as you are running through these streets, you guys, and just at the moment you take to like let these cages out, you're like, "Come, child," and like you guys are running, and these creatures are like jumping out of windows. Now there are like dogs that look like them. These flesh creatures can invade anything that's organic and change it and adapt it. So now there's these like wild, awful hounds that have no face, no eyes, but they split in like 3 ways.
Oh,
They look kind of demogorgon. and they're like chasing you guys. Go ahead and use that perception to see if you can't give them the
Give them the slip.
They don't hold that. Give them the slip.
16.
Yep, just barely, but yep. Yeah, you're able to because you can see through, like, as you get close to the space, you can see through the debris.
Mm-hmm.
You can see, and at one point there is another one of these large, like, troll-esque flesh creatures, and you're able to actually, like, duck underneath it, and it, like, steps on these dogs as you are, like, walking. You are able to, like, tuck and roll.
Cool.
And you guys make your way up, and you're now able to climb, like, just like that long stretch up to the gates. The gates are smashed, but outside the gate, there's a small contingent of men, and one of those people is your father. So he's like, son,
What happened here?
and he says, I don't know, something went horribly wrong. And he looks at you, and he's like, the dungeon, which you know is a place that you've never been allowed to go.
Okay.
It's a big, like, no, and it's the only time this would be the first time he's acknowledged it to you your entire life. You were like, what's in the dungeon, Daddy? When you're a little boy, and he's like, go away. But your whole life, he's never spoken of it. So, the entrance to it, which is sealed, it's like sealed with like limestone, so like you couldn't have gotten snuck in there anyways. And he just looks at you like you should know exactly what he's talking about, but of course,
I have
you have no idea what he's talking about. He looks at you and he says, we have to evacuate the city.
We're already started that. They're headed towards the whatchamajigger temple.
Mm-hmm. And he said that. He says, you sent the people into the beguiling forest alone, and he says, so nothing you can do, nothing. He says, he yells around. He's like, Landon, Arvis, gather your horses, and he just like looks at you, and he's like, get yourself to safety, and he's like, I can't lose anything else today, and he means that. That's a real moment. He's not being like an asshole. He's not going to ask you to help him do this though, because you're too precious to him.
Okay. I'd like to go to the stables still if they're close by.
Well, you have your own personal horse. So you're talking about your personal stables?
Yeah.
Yeah. You go over there, but this is like the main area of the courtyard that you can see that there is a hole in the ground that went all the way up the side of the building. The building looks more like it's missing building, and all the debris like from the stable and all that. All the horses around here are dead.
Okay. So like, there's no chance my horse is alive here.
I don't know. Why don't you call out for her?
Oh God.
You got a hero point?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, give me that hero point.
Okay.
And call out for her.
Horse.
Horse.
Has a name.
Horse number 1.
To be determined. TBD.
TBD! You hear and like from behind the barn. Who's this?
It's 2 men in a horse costume.
No. Yeah, she's right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Are there any other horses around for?
The only other animal is a small donkey.
Okay. Cool. So I'd like to grab this one who is somewhere nearby and place her on said horse.
How do you react? How do you react when he grabs you?
I just feel like I would like freeze up and be like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What is this thing?" I feel like the horse would be really weird to me.
The horse is really weird to you. The one thing that isn't weird to you are these creatures. You're like intrinsically linked to them, so they feel you're
like these creatures.
Yes.
Okay.
You're imprinted on them like a raptor does in Jurassic Park. Whenever they.
I still don't know if I'd like being touched. I feel like that'd be the first time someone touched me. Technically.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'd say your inclination might be that you would, at very least, if you don't like being touched, that it doesn't offend you that he grabs you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna attack, but I'm just like
it's
tense.
So you put her up on the horse.
Yeah, I'll actually get up behind her, and if that's what we have. Philippa, your donkey.
Thanks.
I feel like I'm gonna have I have message as a cantrip, but I want it to be like I have a thought in my head, but accidentally send a message to you and be like, what is going on? Why are people touching me? What is this creature underneath me? But just like a panic freak out. But you can hear it in your head too.
And basically send back warm fuzzies, not even like words at this point. Like clearly there's a sense
What
of
are
purpose,
feelings?
and it's got your best interests at heart, but not even really registering with me.
I feel like I wouldn't know how to touch the horse either. Just
And
kind of
that's
like
fine.
awkwardly,
And
just
you're just
stiff.
kind of placed there, and
The next thing you guys notice as you're kind of riding yourselves, you get the donkey out. There's also, you see, there is another horse there, but this horse is badly injured.
Oh no.
But not quite dead.
Can is that something I could look up at?
How many spell slots you got?
Take
I have
your
2.
second spell
Yeah,
slot.
I would take my second spell.
Yeah, you want to heal that horse? You certainly can.
Yeah, there's so many of us that would be good to do.
You reach down, and when you say you touch the horse, and you say 2 words in Draconic. You say the word, and you recognize them now. You say the word for heal. You say the word for horse. And as you cast these spells, you're going to slowly learn more and more of this language, and it will just be something that eventually your character will know. But when you say those things, the horse, you heal it, and it like does that horse thing that they awkwardly get up really fast. But you also bond with this creature in a way that's intrinsic to you. Like you get a sense of its sense of self. And a glimpse, like a flashes of its life and like its like freedom, and then being here in the stables and almost being killed. And you can add it to your list of animals that you'll be able to shapeshift into eventually. Okay, cool. So you got enough horses for everybody. You guys get on the horses. I think horses and being up here gives you a direct line. There is a goat pass that allows you to get out of the city down the backside of the mountain. And as you kind of turn one last time, like giving the city the slip, you look back and you see that even the birds are now starting to mutate. There are these there's a whole flock of birds that have become one creature that seems to be like throwing itself around in the air, and it's just like scooping up people. You may survive this, but your lives will never be the same again. So, you guys are going to take off on horseback. Winifred says that she knows of a place that you guys can stay the night, or you can push forward and try to ride all the way to the Rook. But the Rook that would be a dangerous, nearly 24-hour ride.
I would suggest going to where we told all the people to go instead of wherever she wants us to.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's a good idea. She's not going to be sold on that though, because you were told the place that he told the people to go is directly to the southwest of the city. I'm yelling at my wife who's off camera right now. No, you're fine. No, you're eating your salad. I just want your input. No, I just want your input. I was just explaining who I'm yelling at. The place they want to go is not in the direction of where you want to go. Do you have anything to say to them in response to that, or do you?
Just that I've been with Thanatos for a long time, and I saw that look in his eye, and he meant it. He was serious, and I'm scared to not follow what he says to do, and I really think we should go to the Rook.
She basically is implying that I get your sentiment. We want to help these people, and we can. I mean, we can do whatever you want.
But I don't give a shit about it.
She doesn't give a shit about them, because they're bottom line people.
Right.
So, and you might be you might be opposed to that idea.
And that is actually Xanatos doesn't belong here. He's not of this land. We are. We will save our people. And I'm gonna flip my hair and all that shit as well to try to persuade you.
Cool.
Not even consciously so much, but I'm a charismatic son of a bitch, and 16.
Yeah, you persuade her. She kind of looks at you, and for a moment, she's taking on this role of babysitter in her brain. She knows things about the world that you guys only are just now glimmering that there might be a prospect of.
Right.
And she looks at you, and she smirks, just a little bit. And you guys head down the path.
I'm not convinced.
You're not convinced.
No,
Okay,
I don't
cool.
think my character would be like, I understand they're your people, but your father is there. She's more important. If you got the same feeling I did, then you know how important that this creature is, and we must protect her.
Right, and we will.
By taking her to the Magus.
Was
What
bigger
about-
for the Magus.
Elder? Sorry, Elder.
Eldest.
Eldest. Okay.
Elvis.
Elvis.
I hope Matt Colville named it that so everyone would call it Elvis all the time.
On purpose.
On purpose.
I don't really care what you guys want to do. I'm gonna go find Eldest. This way. Tapping on the horse.
The horse does not respond to you at all. But
I don't know how to work it.
I mean, like shakes. Like, it does not like being tapped by the lizard diamond thing.
How do you make this thing go?
And I will guide the horse towards the southwest. We need
Is this
these
the way to
people
Eldest? Where's Eldest?
This way.
Eldest is this way. Then we should go this way.
Do we have any idea what she's talking about? Or
You have
is she
no
just
idea what
going
she's
around?
talking about.
Who is
And
eldest
he says-
child?
And as you look at Winifred, she doesn't either. She's like,
Right.
I'm supposed to take you to a tower.
Do I have like a sense of where Eldest is, or I just know that that's...
You have a sense of adventure, and that is your guide.
I feel like I would believe you if you
your
said
guide
he was
is your
this way,
intuition, so you feel like wherever you go, you're meant to be.
Too. Dope.
So you're going with them?
If that's the way you said to go, that's what I would trust. I feel like I'm super naive and
What
young.
was your name again?
I like
As
you
we're
guys.
riding here.
They call me Yaka, and I go where she goes. So if she goes with you, then I'm coming too.
Great, Yaka.
Here's a donkey.
And then Mary and Pippin pop up. We're coming too.
Then you have my sword.
And my ass. Okay, yeah. So she gets you to eat the donkey. Do you get on the donkey?
Yes.
That seems about right for you. I feel like.
Yeah, I'm just...
No pride. Just, no problem. So you guys get on, and as you start to ride south, the sun you see is starting to set. And as you go off the path for the first time in maybe your whole lives, or at least since you can remember, it's like the hair on the back of your neck or the crystals on the back of your neck kind of tingle and stand on end. And as you step past it, it really is like a veil has been lifted off of you, and you can now look off in the distance, and you can see mountains beyond the mountains of your homeland. You can see a swirling vortex of energy that, literally, there's landscape that was not there before, and it is a real, interesting moment for you. You guys are going to head into this forest, and it's on path, and let's go ahead and let's take a little break.
Alright.
We'll be back in, let's do 15 minutes.
When?
It's probably just us at this point. Yeah, sound.
Which is why I never eat fish sticks anymore.
It's terrible.
It's a good story. It's a good story about fish sticks. A
It's
good
not-
real story.
I don't know if
about
I
fish
I don't know if
sticks.
I can eat fish
I
sticks.
know, you probably won't be able to now.
Paul?
Just after hearing
You
about
say
it, right?
fish dicks?
Did you say fish sticks?
Do fish have dicks?
Yeah.
Fish have sex, right?
I mean,
On
like
most
kind
of
of like
them.
spewing into eggs.
Yeah.
Time.
But the
It's more
eggs,
of an
the eggs are not internal, right?
Isn't there a
Yeah.
whole like Rick and Morty episode about how salmon spawn?
Yeah.
They just in the
Because
water
that's
and
my
they die.
question. I know that salmon.
Yeah,
Is
it's
different,
the one
but I
one.
don't know if all fish
Yeah.
are the same.
Right.
Most fish don't fuck
Oh,
in the traditional human sense.
Okay.
Right.
That's I mean
Right.
that's the real
And
question.
that's
I'm
why we don't eat fish sticks.
Exactly.
We're doing fish sticks.
Because fish don't have dicks.
Whales do.
They have
Wait,
dicks.
did I misunderstand?
Yeah, they just don't have sex with the dicks.
I thought that would have been
In
clear
the
from her
traditional
story.
sense.
That was weird.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back, everyone.
What
To,
are we doing?
To Fish Dick Hour with
Fishy dicks.
A panel of experts.
a panel of experts. Each week we tune in to talk about fish dicks, and dicks, fishes, fish sticks.
And dicks, delicious fish sticks.
Yeah. This podcast is brought to you by
Tricky dicks, delicious fish dicks.
God, we're not doing.
Let's fucking end it. Okay. So our heroes, then as the night starts to, as dusk starts to settle in, the night is right around the corner. You guys head down this little goat path and into the woods, into the woods. And as you start to explore, that sense of wonder and excitement starts to quickly turn into a real feeling of dread and aloneness. You guys,
I wish for many things.
you are. This would also be one of the first times you've been in the woods after dark. It is illegal to go out into the forest after dark as a minor.
It is.
Yeah, well, because they're protected lands, so they don't like drilling and
Right, not at night.
The air is slightly cold and there's a slight mist, and you can still, even as you travel 20-30 minutes outside of town, you can still hear the screams. It's awful. And now as the darkness sets in, and this strange creature between your legs and this asshole who you've been stuck with your whole life, it's got a strange creature between his legs, and you've got this very nice orc.
That's an incredible sentence.
Crazy.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not doing phrasing anymore. You all kind of look at each other, and which direction is the temple?
Southwest.
Kindle?
Southwest is the direction you said earlier.
Yeah. Which
Who are
way?
you?
Which directions? Which?
Are you my internal monologue?
I'm just
Is
asking.
this how I talk to
I'm just
myself?
asking you. I'm just asking you, the player. Wait a minute. I actually don't know which way's north.
And all we have are trees. What about these mountains and swirling vortexes?
Well, the mountains and the swirling vortexes, they're new to you.
What about the goddamn moon?
The moon
I
is
haven't-
not out yet, but there are two suns. So
I have an excellent memory
Cool.
for maps and geography. We
Right.
did steal some maps.
Right, and I'll pull out the map at this
Thank you.
point.
That's all I
My
wanted.
internal
That's
monologue.
all I wanted you to do.
Pull out the goddamn map.
Pull out the fucking map. Look at the map. So you
Took
look at
long
the map.
enough.
The place you're trying to find is not going to be on this map.
Okay.
It's not a. This would be a lost location. You can add it to this map. This map, since she brought along some ink, you could easily update to make a rough approximation. It is not a topographical map. This is a map of this place is before this place and after this place and by this lake.
Yeah.
But luckily you look around, and as you're looking on the skyline, you've traveled close enough. This is the area where you guys you found this place hunting.
Right.
So actually it's very easy for you to find. So
Cool.
and it isn't long before you find a family. They have a cart with them that they've been pulling, and it's stuck in the mud. And as you approach, the mother, it's just a mother and her, like 4 kids, and they're like, "My lord," and they kind of like quietly gesture at you, and then they look at the creature, and she starts to scream. She's gonna.
Wait. Miss Tompkins.
She freaks out. She looks at Opal, and she's like, oh my god! She grabs her baby, and she like grabs another one by the hand and leaves the oldest and just starts running down the road.
I'm gonna stay on the horse and get in front of them and stop them.
Yeah, you gotta, and when you do, she kind of stops. And she not 20. She writes herself. She's like, what is that cursed thing?
It's not a curse. Whatever it is wonderful. But I need you
Love
to
it.
focus on me right now.
I love it.
What do you have in the wagon? Do you need that?
Everything. Wilbur, he's in the town. He died. And she's in shock. So she's not going to be much help. She's
Cool.
more.
We've got like 4 animals right now. Can we pull her wagon out of the mud without major effort?
Yeah, it'll take you probably a half hour to do that. If you're cool with taking a break, it would be the right thing to. I mean, it would be the nice thing to do.
Right. And with that sense, is there a sense of immediate danger?
Other than these like creepy woods, as far as like the things in the town, that's back in the town.
There's just screams in the distance, but
Yeah.
they don't sound like they're getting closer.
Yeah, and this temple you need to get to is it's a good it's a half a day's walk. So on horse it's going to be a little quicker, except for the places where eventually you might have to leave the horses behind or have to cut.
We need to help her.
Why don't we just take them with us? We can come back for the supplies later.
They will slow you down without the. They were pulling the cart.
If we
So
take
it's
the
only
wagon,
30
and
minutes.
with my horse is trained as a guard horse, whatever, we can pick up more along the way.
All right, let's get this wagon out then.
What do you think?
Is there anything special?
They're not going the way you want them to go.
I know.
They're not now.
Do I feel any more impending doom or immediate sense of danger than they do? Because of
No, you are worried that you haven't heard from Xanatos yet. You also know that you can cast Mending as an hour-long ritual, and you can fix the broken axle on the cart, because even if they pull it out, it's going to be hard.
that's an hour. An hour's longer than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
To pull it out. Oh, but that doesn't make it.
Smart one, Winifred.
Does it have to take 30 minutes? Are there things that, can we try to do it faster than that? If we had some
What
ideas.
cantrips you got? You got Mending?
How big are the trees?
The trees are big, spindly. They're barren because it's.
Okay, so they're not thick.
They're not thick.
Okay, never mind.
You can see. It's enough of a space between the trees that you could easily ride a horse between them in those parts of it. There is brush, and you do have to be careful that you don't accidentally fall into a pit or something. I suppose maybe that kind of danger, but it's not really
We need a lever.
We can have a lever. Can we lever it out? Would that give us
No,
any
I
30-minute
don't think it's
advantage?
worth it. We have to go.
I'd say
We
that
don't
there's
have the
probably they probably have a tool like a garden hoe or something. You could attempt to use it if it doesn't break.
I was mostly thinking of one of these trees.
Oh, the trees. Yeah, there's probably some dead wood that's kind of hanging out, and you could
Something to lever it up.
yeah, go ahead and you get that in position. He's like, well, I don't want to wait. He's just everyone's like, I don't know, and he's just marching around, finds this tree, shoves it down there. Go ahead and make me a strength check.
I'll help.
Okay.
What
You
is
can
it
have
about
advantage
you?
because as you push down on it, the orc comes up behind you and.
Yeah, and I actually am not doing too well until he gets behind and puts that all in, and then it's over.
Cool. So yeah, you guys push it out, and when you do that, the axle was broken, and the wheel was kind of propped down against the ground, or the back broken wheel was. And when you push it, you end up breaking the other wheel, but you get it up out of the mud.
Cool.
So you could definitely drag it. I mean,
And
it's like a sled, maybe.
Okay, well, we've done our.
Great, good luck to you. I wish you the best. We've got to go. Come on.
And I'm off my horse, and I've moved the little dragon girl into the wagon, and I'm hooking the horse up with a makeshift rope.
What spells you got over there, Dragon Girl? What cantrips you got?
Message, shocking grasp, dancing lights, friends.
Nice. Go ahead and cast Dancing Lights as it starts to get dark, and you are not too fond of the dark, having just got away from the dark.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I'd be like looking around, kind of panicky. Every sound, everything freaking me out.
And as you're doing these things, I like the idea that you're doing them reactionarily, and you don't know you're doing them. So when you do it, it's almost a joy that like, oh, you can make lights, or I can do these wonderful,
Oh,
I can do these wonderful things.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So she casts her lights. You guys, so you hook up your, like with rope, you hook up this wagon, and it does take you a little bit longer, but it doesn't take as long as it would for you guys to stop and like fix it. As you go, oh fuck.
Oh.
That's something good. I think something good.
You guys are kind of pulling the cart, and the moon comes out from behind the clouds, and you finally have some like moonlight, and actually the creepiness feeling kind of shrinks away as the mist kind of clears, and you see a landmark that points you. You're like, okay, this is that soft flagstone that juts up out of the ground. You've always noticed it's just strange. It's just here. It's like, where did this come from? And then a little bit further along the way, there is one of those ancient roadside shrines. There used to be roads that crisscrossed the land, and there was these shrines to all the multitude of gods that used to be awake and alive, but are now sleeping. So folklore says, and as you round this passageway, there is a cave up ahead that you have known because you have hunted some bear there before and some wild boar. As you guys round the corner and get close to this cave, you're just a little too far before you notice that there is a creature's eyes. You can see the light reflecting off their eyes inside the cave, and you hear a
My creature sense give me anything on that?
Not good.
Sounds like a bird and a bear.
What's that? What is that?
And when you, as soon as you hear that you jest, but there is rumored to be a mythical owlbear.
I was asking
Owlbear
Xanthos, but
that
I
like roams the forest.
I don't need it.
That is literally the reason that the law was enacted that children were allowed to go off into the forest a couple hundred years ago. People forgot about it. This owlbear, as you look at it, it's humongous. It is, I don't know, as big as a bus. It's big. Okay. Like as you up to the cave front, its head kind of starts to kind of poke out into the moonlight, and it looks like a barn owl's head. So it's first it just looks like a giant owl, and then it kind of like comes out a little bit further, and it's just trying to sneak up within 30 feet of you so it can start to strike you. What you guys do is this giant creature starts to kind of. It's a monstrosity. It's not a beast.
What is the myth of the owl bear beyond that it eats children at night? Is it?
That if you are a bad child who doesn't go to bed, and if you play out in the woods and you don't do your chores, the owl bear will come and feed you to her cubs. Okay. So it's more like a story for like young kinder.
Right, and it's more the idea, is the owl bear known to be just kind of a force that there's no more of a story to, or is it like a thinking, reasoning thing where there's like, oh, Rumpelstiltskin owl bear?
I don't know. The lore is it's a oral like folklore. So roll me an insight as you look at this creature.
Ha! I'm so insightful on its owl face. 5.
I'm gonna use a power.
Sure.
Can I roll a history on it?
You have history?
Super
I
good.
sure do.
Yeah, go ahead. What'd you roll?
It's a 9.
God, that scared me. 9.
Bird says my friend's out there.
You would love to test your theory, but man, it is scary looking. So I think it's more of like you don't feel like, should I, and like you like reach for your sword, and as you do it, like it looks down at you as if, and you're like, I don't really get. You just don't going to get a clean read on it. What do you roll?
14.
14. What were you rolling?
History.
You don't know anything. You're not from this place, so you do know you know that you've never seen anything like this creature before.
Mm-hmm.
So if it exists here, history would dictate that it exists for a reason.
Okay.
That it's not just randomly living in this cave.
Okay.
Yes, Opal?
I think I would be freaking the fuck out because a big scary creature just came up out of the dark.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would amplify.
Cool. What does that do?
So I'm just going to like let out a blood-curdling screech that'll cause psychic damage.
So, in Stronghold and Followers, I'm just going to pause you real quick and talk to the game. The Gemstone Dragons have psionics because their crystals literally are hardwired into their brains, I suppose, and it helps make their brains into computers. And so Nicole has a handful of psychic abilities. Go ahead and resume.
We're still on the horse, or I'm still on the horse, quote unquote.
In front of the wagon is where I would.
Okay, cool. So I'm actually like, because I'm hyped up for adventure, because I'm scared, everything's going, I don't even understand what adrenaline is. I'm just going to like fucking scream at it and then like jump down and try to. How close is it? You said?
It's about 30 feet away, so.
Can I have 30 feet of speed, so.
Are you running at it?
I feel like I would. Okay. Like I'd be terrified and want it to be over because. Fuck it.
All right, if you feel that way. You can get within range of attacking it for sure.
Cool. Then yes.
Can I do something to stop that or no?
If she lets you.
Because
yeah.
I have I'm supposed to use a cantrip. Okay. What is there any leaves or something?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I can start a small fire. So I'm thinking that if I put a small fire ahead of her, maybe she'll go the other direction.
Not run towards the big thing?
Yeah.
If you give her a hero point, I'll let you do that.
I'm down to just let her do that. I think that'd be yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so you guys do that, and
I don't feel like I'd run away from it though, because I've never seen fire before. So maybe I like would just lay down on the ground in front of it and be like, whoa.
I'm running after her. Awesome. And I'm gonna run up, and as soon as you lay down, I'm gonna come up and be like, "Come back, child, quick!" and like try and like.
No, do you see this?
I'm literally gonna
this
pick
is so
you up.
cool.
The fire is lit. The owlbear kind of like squawks and like shrinks back into the cave, and you kind of hear it like clicking, like it's really scared of the fire. And all of a sudden, it doesn't seem quite as threatening as it did before, just because it's all big puppy.
What the hell is going on? Where did the fire come from?
So I've been having these things happen. I guess we haven't talked about that.
Talked a lot.
Which spell did you cast? Which cantrip is that? Firebolt?
No, Druidcraft.
Oh, Druidcraft. You make like a small spark skull. Yeah, and you and when she does it, she's like muttering these words. That's like, and yeah, she can make, and with the Druidcraft, yeah, you can make all sorts of cool sensory effects with that. So, she shows you. She's just like,
make a flower bloom.
And then you're like,
that is weird, but it was a more general question.
Oh.
We should get the wagon past the cave. If I guess keep the fire there.
It's only enough. It's because Druidcraft is a real light spell. It's like it's a flicker of a flame. And I'll roll that it like was able to build enough, and then it can't last. It can't really do any damage. But as soon as like you don't see the eyes in the cave anymore. So if you guys want to, you can probably just get on.
The wagon past with the women and children.
Where's the fluffy thing though? I don't. What he looked like?
No, come, please. Sit back on the wagon. We must leave.
So you guys make your way down, and it doesn't take you another maybe 20 minutes, and you find not only the place, but a lot of people, like a good 30, 40 people who are hanging out. And when you come, it's this old, it's an ancient keep of some sort. It's mostly like a walled exterior, and then there is one tall tower on the inside. It is mostly the facade of the structure. It doesn't have as much of its interior as it used to. It also has a temple attached to it. You can tell because the architecture is more ornate, and it's more like an open air space that's behind the wall. And as you get there, the wall's torn down on one section, and people have just they're all kind of huddled and they're waiting for you. And as you get close, you recognize everybody, at least oh, that's that guy. But there is one knight there that you would recognize by name, and he would recognize you. And his name is... we'll say her name.
Sorry, guys.
Her name is Lysa Copperwind. And she is one of your father's knights, and she sees you and she says, "Young lord." And she kind of gets you, she grabs your horse and has somebody come over and get the horse. And if you do that, the scene kind of operates like a movie where you guys are talking and walking and
yeah, absolutely.
And she leads you back into an area, and she sees you and then immediately is like, what is that? Motioning towards you, Opal.
What are you?
I'm a knight of the House of West.
What's a knight?
A servant. A servant to the cause.
Oh, do you know where Eldest is? That's what I'm looking for. He said this is where Eldest would be, right? Eldest is supposed to be here?
Possibly fall to me.
Everybody roll me a dex save. As the ground beneath you starts to shake.
17.
That one. Doing this.
12.
12.
22.
Alright. You all fall gracefully. You land on your face.
Absolutely.
And you take 3 damage.
That's significant
At level 1, you could die from fall. The ground below you, as she says, "Where's Eldest?" You guys are inside this temple area. They were walking you guys through, and the ground gives way and literally makes a giant landslide, and you guys slide all the way underneath the stronghold into a secret dungeon level.
Oh my
long
goodness, did we
since.
actually find Eldest?
And as you guys kind of right yourselves, you being the last one because you're all upside down, you're like, "Well, what is this? Is awful." You're kind of maybe a little annoyed, and you turn around, and you're now in this chamber, and there's a soft blue glow as the head of this gargantuan-sized kobold dragon with 6 eyes and a huge set of teeth looks down. He can barely move. He's inside the ground. The ground all the land has grown up around him over thousands of years. And you guys are maybe a story underground. So,
Eldest!
And
Oh no.
he's asleep. And then she says that, a big puff of cool air kind of blows on you guys as he exhales. And we'll go ahead and call that there with you guys looking at the head of this giant dragon.
I fell down on my hands and knees.
And you're yelling, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" And the camera pans back out through the hole, revealing the stronghold, and then back you see, following your trail, is a pack of humongous owlbears, and they are right on the edge of your camp. And that's a looming threat that will be.
A pack.
She was the mother, and she's got a bunch of cubs that are the size of regular adult owls.
Good.
And they're hungry. Hungry hippos. And then we pull back even further, and the camera will stop in an aerial view of the beautiful village of Weston, slain in ruins, smoke drifting, the town being pulled apart, these creatures just kind of walking like zombies, just kind of moving through this space, and like kind of screaming and screeching, but not really moving with much purpose, other than the handful of these like there was that one that looked like a knight that seems to kind of be looking around. And yeah, that's it. That's how we'll end. Will our heroes be eaten by the dragon? Will they be eaten by the owlbears? Or will they eat the owlbears? They can feed them to the dragon. Find out next time.
Everyone could have fish sticks.
Fish dicks for everyone.
Suck it!
Suck it! Bye, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you next week. Tune in Sunday for the Sunday stream. We'll be on episode 3.
Super deep.
Super deep. We are exploring the second level of the Mad Dungeon, the Mad Mage's dungeon. And then Thursday we have our live streams, which I don't save of right now, at least, of our Murder World. If you just want to hang out with us and watch us play.
Pantame will be there.
Pantame, yeah, for sure.
Pantame will be there.
But definitely tune in on friggin' Sunday, and then come back next week, and then come back the next week.
All the
But
time.
then,
And then the next week.
But then that's fine. Okay.
Also check out the Instagram if you have not. Thank you. Bye. Love you.
Bye.
This was brought to you by Tricky
Suck
Dicks Fish
it!
Sticks.